Prime Podcast, Season 2, Episode 21. We're going to be talking about some Tears of the Kingdom stuff today. Before I introduce our guests, I just want to tell people we're going to do our best to avoid spoilers for a majority. There's going to be 3 different segments. We will warn you when we're going to get to a spoiler segment for anyone who wants to dip out and not listen, which is totally understandable. I get it. I might have spoiled some things for our guests. I really hope I didn't. But, that's the way this game works because of the way the story works. That being said, let's introduce everyone who's here. So let's just go top row first here. We got Monster Maze right next to me. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well. I mostly make Zelda content, so this is a good time for me.
Nice. Then we got Commonwealth Realm on for the very first time. How's it going, bud?
Hello there. I'm doing fine. It's the National Day of Norway here, but yeah, it's always a good time to celebrate, I guess.
There you go. Gotta dress up all fancy. We have Darren here as well. Welcome back, bud.
Can't believe I pried myself away from Tears of the Kingdom to record a podcast.
Yeah, I can't believe you did either, to be honest. You took time off specifically to play, and you're here.
I'm in the middle of a vacation. I mean, I've been grinding.
The Zelda vacation. Then right below Darren, we got Kit Ellis here. How's it going, bud?
Hey, good to see you again. I think we were on last about a month or 2 ago, so it's good to be back.
Like February? I don't even know.
Maybe longer.
I lose track sometimes.
I was actually looking. I think it was 3 months ago.
Was it 3 months ago?
My hair was freshly cut. It looks completely different. It was
you're getting back to where you looked before.
Yeah.
Then we got Krista, his cohort, on. How's it going?
Hi, glad to be here. Really excited to talk about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And then Andres Restart, as always. How's it going?
Hey, pretty good. Sorry for being late. I was mad that you spoiled the story for me. So.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Me too. I almost didn't
so much anger. The funny thing is, I don't actually even know a majority of the story, but it's just that like the way the story paces itself in this game, it's very much like in your face with certain things.
Was I the only one that didn't get spoiled by the topic list?
Is there an eject button for us as guests?
Right.
Hit that point.
See, look at this. This is the complication we have of making content right now when you're making Zelda content. Everything and nothing is a spoiler. I don't even.
It's such a tough balance because I need to make content, but like I need to play the game, and I've played 30 hours, which I think is a pretty good amount of time for like 4.5 days for a normal person. But that is like not enough compared to a whole bunch of other people who have just like blitzed through the story.
Not a person who's been off of work since Thursday.
no, I don't even know. How much have I played? Does it say it?
No, it won't say until 10 days after.
That's right.
I approximated my
I approximated. Well, I mean, I can count my live streams, but see, then I've been playing off streams, so I don't know. It's been a lot.
I got
pretty
about
much every spare
I want to
moment.
say 60 hours, and it might be more. I don't know.
Nice. I think I'm around 40 probably, but I don't know. I made the excuse to live stream the game even though no one watches it because no one wants to be spoiled on anything, so they just don't watch. That's all right. So I would normally get into what have we been playing lately, but I think I don't know that there is anything else to say. We probably all been playing the same thing, I assume.
Well, I did play a little bit of Future Redeemed yesterday just to record a little bit of extra footage, and I found an additional Affinity scene, but then I went back to Tears of the Kingdom. So,
Gotcha. Okay. So we also have a usual segment of our podcast for what happened for Switch in last week. Let's just be honest. We're here to talk Zelda. We don't need to get into other Zelda news. Although, here's a funny bit that didn't make it in because, when I made this topic list, they hadn't announced it yet. We now have the sales data for launch for Tears of the Kingdom.
Incredible sales data, too.
Over 10 million units in 3 days.
It's insane.
Only other Nintendo published game to do that was Scarlet and Violet last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you guys have any comments on those sales? That is insane. A Zelda game, guys, sold 10 million.
This isn't the holiday. Scarlet and Violet sold 10 million during the holidays.
Yeah, during a holiday period too. Yeah.
So
I mean, I feel like Tears of the Kingdom should have sold double that on launch, considering how bad Scarlet and Violet were.
Oh, here we go.
So,
here we go.
Sorry, I'll shut up. I just angered everybody in the chat. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
yeah. I don't think you angered anyone. Scarlet and Violet has its performance issues. I'll leave it. I'll leave it at that. It's got some good content in there, but
This
You
is the
gotta
magic of
say-
the Switch, and this is why Nintendo's dragging out this generation. Is like you've got so many systems out there, and people who want to buy games, want to play games, and this is like, I mean, how many times has this happened? Like Animal Crossing, Splatoon, Pokemon. These big first-party franchises just have their best ever. Metroid to a much smaller extent, but all these franchises have their best ever sales on this system.
It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah.
And Animal Crossing had that perfect storm of pandemic shutdown, everyone locked in their house. We need a cozy, feel-good game to play. Everyone's been looking forward to Zelda because of Breath of the Wild. You had Mario Odyssey released to it, an incredible reception. Best game in the franchise has been releasing on the system. It's like a perfect storm. It's just one after the other. They're just hitting us, and I love it. I hope they can do it forever.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land being the best-selling Kirby ever.
Mhm.
Like it just
Yeah.
everything. I mean,
Xenoblade,
Luigi's Mansion
Fire
3,
Emblem.
Xenoblade.
Yeah, Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metroid
Like, just-
Prime remake.
Yeah. I mean, Metro
And off to a
did pretty good.
start, Yeah.
We can
That's
throw
a
that
good
in there,
start.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Link's Awakening remake, that was fantastic. I mean, another remake, but still, I loved that.
Ryan
game.
4 when it comes out, apparently kind of soon.
Maybe. Who
Hopefully,
knows?
maybe.
Maybe.
Cross fingers, hearing it's done, but doesn't mean it's coming. I don't know what's happening.
We'll see.
I don't think anything can get close to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe though. But
No.
I'm
Oh, man.
beginning to feel that maybe Tears of the Kingdom could become the best-selling game on the system. Though Animal Crossing is hard to get to, but
Yeah.
it depends on how much juice is left in the Switch.
I didn't realize how
that's
much
a
of
good
an
question.
online community Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had. Like, I was just scrolling through YouTube Shorts the other day, and for some reason the algorithm put a bunch of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe content on my feed, and I was like, this is crazy. People play this game like every day. There's competitive leagues. This is crazy. I love it. It's great. It makes me want to hop on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again.
Yeah, it's still going, still getting content. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
What,
it's
two
crazy.
more DLC drops for that still to come.
Yeah,
to
there's
feed,
more
so.
character slots that they got to fill. I'm kind of excited to see what's up with that. But
I'm
Should
not
be-
sure if Tears of the Kingdom can catch Mario Kart. That would be insane.
Yeah,
Or
that
even
would be
Animal Crossing.
crazy. That would be like what 60 million. That's-
Maybe, but like I have a pretty good feeling that maybe it could catch up to Breath of the Wild though. It's off to a good start at least.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's gonna get this holiday, and I mean who knows down the line if it gets a re-release or whatever on the next platform. Whenever they get into
Yeah.
that,
Since they can't do a price drop, they might do a bundle where Tears of the Kingdom's actually with the system. Maybe that would
I
actually
mean, that's a.
push sales.
I kind of feel like we're just getting Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
I know it's easy to say that because it's every holiday, it's the same
Right.
bundle, but I mean
They'll
they
make
did.
you buy it again at full price. Don't you worry about
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
With all the DLC for Switch
DLC is
too.
probably coming, so that's going to help
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, DLC.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's just get into the first part of the time because we could talk forever about what Nintendo might be doing in the future. Because after Pikmin 4, we don't really know, do we? So
Well, Gamescom.
yeah,
is
they're going to be at
happening.
Gamescom. They got Nintendo Live 2023, and they're sort of like doing a PAX West thing, maybe partnering up with them with some stuff, and that's cool. But we don't actually know what they're doing there. At least I don't know. Maybe Ken and Krista has some inside sources. I have
You're
no
going to
idea.
have a great time playing Nintendo Switch Sports at Gamescom.
Yes. Yes. That's what they're bringing. That's the big one. So our first topic to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, again, in a non-spoiler fashion here. What's our favorite and least favorite aspects of just the gameplay of it? We have like the new abilities. Obviously we have all that experience of Breath of the Wild over the years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So who wants to go first here on this one?
I'll go first. I
All right.
want someone else. Let someone else talk though, because I talk too much.
Go for it, bud.
All right. There's honestly a lot of things. I can't just pick one. There's a whole list, but I'll just pick one so you guys could pick other things. I'm gonna say the music is one of the standouts for me. I enjoyed the music in Breath of the Wild, but after Breath of the Wild, I was kind of hoping that they would go back somewhat to what they did in prior Zeldas. And while it's not exactly like prior Zeldas, I've kind of noticed more variety, and it kind of stands out a little bit more to me. Like there's still like the ambient, like sound effects, and there's that music there that kind of transitions seamlessly depending on the environment. But I've also kind of noticed, when I go to a tower, I really like the tower theme, right? I really like some of the town themes, and it's just a little bit more noticeable to me this time around. And I feel like they did even better with the music, and also When they were saying that the sound effects sound more realistic, they weren't kidding. It does sound a lot better. If you play this game with a headset, it sounds really good.
Yeah, when they said that, I didn't know if I'd notice it, but then I was doing live stream, so I was listening through headphones, which I usually don't game with headphones. And I was like, whoa. I just finished Master Mode Breath of the Wild. It did not sound like this.
I haven't tried that yet, and I'm going to directly after this podcast. Now that you said that,
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was kind of a fluff thing. Oh, we now have stereo audio or something. Like, okay, cool. And no, it's actually legitimately better.
That's great.
It's actually quite funny because to bring up a specific example, yesterday I actually heard a kookaburra in the loud Australian birds in the game. I was just, wait a minute, that's a kookaburra in Zelda, and I was just like, okay, they've actually really gone organic this time. They're not pretending to recreate realism. No, it is more realism, and they must have taken just so much time to get all kinds of real life sounds instead of just created artificially.
And it's even more meaningful when you account for like the caves and the underground, because there's you hear kind of like the environment, like that echo. And sometimes when it's dark, you might hear something behind you, and it could be a little startling actually. So it adds a little bit more to the overall experience. I think it's something that I think some people might underestimate in terms of how good it is.
It sets an atmosphere for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, huge atmosphere. Like what was it? Yulia, my fiance, was in the underground yesterday, and she heard something. She wasn't sure what it is, and it just jumped out and destroyed her. And she almost jumped out of bed. I've never seen her get jump scared in a Zelda game before. But
the underground is so scary. It's like a totally different vibe than anything I've ever seen in a Zelda game before. And I agree. It has like a Resident Evil jump scare quality to it that I'm a little bit scared to go back down there, actually.
It reminds me so much of exploring the Nether in Minecraft when I was a kid. Like just going through there, being really careful. It's kind of dark. Some areas are lit up and there's monsters everywhere. And you're just like, what could be around the next corner, right? I get that same vibe from this. I see a lot of people complaining online about, the depths is not enough in there. It's just the same stuff over and over. I'm like, dude, just keep exploring. Keep exploring because it's crazy down there. I love it. And that really goes into one of my favorite things about the game is not only there, but in the overworld in general, just the whole game in general. Everywhere I look, I get distracted. Everywhere I look.
And they let you know too. Like as soon as you enter the depths, you hear that like horn type of sound.
Man.
Like you're like,
So
God, what have I gotten myself into?
It gives
But I'll be going through the depths. I'll be going through Hyrule, and I'll have a marker. I'm set out. I'm gonna go. I saw a shrine off in the distance. I'm gonna go to. I saw something weird on the map. I saw a light coming from somewhere in the depths, and I'm headed towards it. All of a sudden, what's that? And then I'm over there, and then I'm on a different quest, or then I'm there, and I found this chest, or I'm doing this other thing, or I got sidetracked from, there's a mini boss that pops up. There's so much to do in this game. Some people say that they feel overwhelmed. I don't feel overwhelmed. My ADHD brain is just yes, just moving everywhere. I want to do everything all at once, and it's really just has my brain wrapped around it. Like it's one of my favorite things about the game is just how engaged that I am on playing it.
What's funny about that? Sorry, go.
I was going to say, I think that's one of my favorite things too, is that sense of discovery. I think that's something that was so surprising in Breath of the Wild when we first played that game. I think we didn't realize how a Zelda game could give you that sense of creativity and discovery and just getting through the world however you feel like. And I'm really glad that that spirit seems super alive and maybe even more so in Tears of the Kingdom, because I'm the same way. I'll like launch out of a tower and then kind of do my little panorama bird's eye view and mark a bunch of stuff, but then we'll get very distracted on the way to, a set destination and discover all sorts of cool things along the way and things to do along the way. And I love that about this game, and just having that sense of discovery and exploration is really awesome.
Yeah, for me, it's that loop of the new loop of exploration, of going into the sky, exploring what I can there, taking a dive down, surveying everything, making some progress going to whatever I'm going to. Like that's a new way of exploration that we couldn't have before in Breath of the Wild. And that's my favorite thing of the game so far, is just exploring, taking it in, finding new sites. And this is such a fun way to do it, because it never feels like any downtime. You're going up, you're exploring in a different kind of way. It's fun to come down, and then you're on the ground and you're somewhere new.
Mm-hmm.
It is great.
Yeah, I find myself going to the towers to like shoot myself back up just to survey. And it's funny because I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to go over here. Like, oh, there's a glyph over here. There's that. I'm gonna head in that direction. And then I'm like, let me just move the camera. So like, oh no, I got to deal with that now too.
Yeah.
The game, it just seems like they built the game to be played for many, many years, but many years of where people will discover brand new things about the game years down the road. Yeah, sure. I'm sure by now, I don't know, maybe not by now. Somebody's going to 100% the game at some point. And we'll know everything there is in there. But even then, by the time that happens, maybe DLC's announced, and who knows how much more they're going to add through that. Like this, one of the big concerns I think, coming in was a lot of people worried about reusing the world. If you just play the game, and it feels weird to say this, sink a good amount of hours in, you'll start to realize there's a lot more changes to the world than you might initially get by just dropping into the very first area. And there's changes there too, but they're a little bit lighter compared to some of the other areas changes. And I think that's just because they really wanted it to be like, okay, well, for new players, you don't want to overwhelm them too much over here, because for them, it's all new.
The amount of content that people are going to discover, especially underground, for years to come is going to be insane. Even like a month before Tears of the Kingdom launched, I was still seeing things online I didn't know about Breath of the Wild. But another thing that like we're going to be discovering a while from now is just all the different ways that you can do anything, whether it's shrine puzzles or beating a boss. I was scrolling through Reddit today, and this guy was like, well, I beat him like this, and I beat him like this, and I beat him like this. And I'm like, wow, I did none of that. I beat him a totally different way. Just seeing how different people's brain works, moving through the world and beating the puzzles and the bosses was a great way to enjoy Breath of the Wild and the discussions around it. And that's only been compounded in this game. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, Eiji Aonuma said in an interview that this is something that the Zelda team's really emphasizing moving forward, is being able to accomplish things in multiple ways, because it's something I guess they've thought about for a while, but weren't able to do. Like he always references back to Ocarina of Time, since that was like an inflection point of here's what the future of Zelda is going to be. And now, hey, Breath of the Wild on forward, this is what Zelda is going to be. And he just said, hey, we just couldn't really do it. We were restricted by hardware, restricted by, the capabilities at the time, just, couldn't do this sort of physics engine back then. So it's really interesting to know that they've sort of had ideas for stuff like this for a while, that they just feel like, from Wii U on forward, they could start actually realizing some of those ideas.
I mean, how many times while you're playing Tears of the Kingdom do you go, oh, that worked? Like, are you kidding me? Or that wasn't how I was supposed to do that, I think.
Or you forget one of your abilities that could have made something way easier, and then you spend an hour doing something that you didn't need to do an hour.
90% of the time. I forget Ascend, and I'll make these contraptions and bridges and stuff, and I get up there, and then I'm like, oh, wait. I could have just saved myself like 15 minutes
Ascend
of time.
is a very, very useful ability to not forget about.
And how many times have you been somewhere and be like, am I supposed to be here? And I think the answer is you're not supposed to be in any one particular place. I mean, it's just insane. It is crazy.
Yeah, I still have a dream that at some point we'll glitch through the water and build a submarine.
No, you're still dreaming of underwater, aren't you?
I think it's possible. I think maybe not. It may not be intended, but I think we may be able to find a way.
Still dreaming about the moon.
I'm gonna build a rocket ship.
But this is actually quite an interesting take when you think of it, because underwater could suddenly be a big DLC object. Like, how do you add more life to this place? Well, break the final boundary, which is underwater. If you do that, then you have the undeniable complete open world experience. Because the only thing you can probably detract from it right now is the lack of underwater exploration. But even there, they improved the stamina for when you swim in the water. It doesn't drain as quickly as it did in Breath of the Wild. So you're more encouraged to be in the water than you were back in 2017.
There's
have
that
noticed
diving
that one.
mechanic too. When you dive from the sky, you don't take any damage diving into the water. Maybe there's a way you could just like dive literally underwater or something like that.
And they have the
They've
animations.
done that in prior Zelda games, so it's a little strange. We've now gone, I mean, gosh, almost a decade, and we don't go underwater in a Zelda game. It's a little weird.
I mean, they have upwards diving animations for like Ascend and diving up the waterfall and the Zora tunic and whatnot.
And they have a swimming animation. We already know that water bubbles. So it's
Yep.
You know, it's kind of like they have the pieces. They just have to do it.
I'm okay if they don't do it. I really just want to build a submarine. I don't care about the glitch underwater. I want to build a submarine. I think it's possible.
People
you got the Master Cycle Zero in the last DLC. Maybe we'll get a 6th submarine.
There we go.
What if?
Or the ability to build a submarine, because like the Ultra Hand ability, I always knew it was going to be something people were going to have a lot of fun with, and all the building they're doing. But I underestimated how unique the game would make some of that stuff. Like, yeah, you could build whatever you want, build a giant mech robot if you want, and all this stuff if you get the right materials. But like even some of the simple stuff, like there's that guy who keeps wanting me to set up his damn signpost. And he's everywhere all the time. And you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna make the same method to hold the signpost up every time and get bored with this. Nope, just a slight little bump on the ground, and suddenly I went from building this very simple thing to hold it up to I'm now 20 objects deep connecting, trying to make this damn thing stand up. and
I have stood up so many stupid signs for that guy, and he gives you like food. I hope there's something at the end of all this, because if I help this guy out for this long,
you get 20 rupees. That's
and he gives you something from his special collection.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic!
He's a nice guy.
Ticket or whatever it is.
Bottle Bud once, and I used it immediately on a camp. So you know what? He helped me out.
Yeah,
I don't even know what
we're on the subject of a side quest. I just have to mention what was, since it isn't really a spoiler because it was in the final trailer, teaming up with other Hylians to battle enemies. Oh, it's such an incredible feeling. It's like the perfect blend of Hyrule Warriors with some of the other old strategy games, and like you really feel like a team in those moments, and it's an amazing experience.
I'm like strangely emotional when I meet some of those old characters again. Like I haven't done any of the main dungeons. I'm really saving and trying to savor those as much as possible. But I went and I was exploring around the Zora domain yesterday night and ran into Prince Sidon for the first time in Tears of the Kingdom. And it's like, kind of feels like a high school reunion where you're like, oh my gosh, you're like all grown up and you're like doing these new things, and
even he's like, dude, I haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome back, bro. I'm like, wait a second.
Totally.
How long has it been since we've seen each other?
Exactly. And you remember him as like a little boy, like a little kid or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is wild to just see these characters again. And it feels like strangely emotional. Like, oh, it's like I haven't seen an old friend for a long time. So that feeling is really nice.
I love that connectedness. I do love it, because I did the exact same thing that you did a couple days ago, and I had the same exact reaction. I was like, this is great. I love that this is a Zelda game. It's all connected. It's like a reunion. It's great. I will say I've played for 60 hours, and I haven't fought anything with other Hylians. So I don't know when and where I run into that. But I'm looking forward to it.
There's I don't want to spoil how it happens, but it's starts in the first area that you land in. There's a progression to it.
Okay, I really haven't done much there. I usually just go back there to visit.
Yeah, I know a lot of people dropped in and said, "I'm out."
Okay, I will go back there. I will go back and investigate and add another quest to the 80 quests that I have in my log.
Well, that's the thing about this game, is that I've also put in about 60 hours at this point, and I'm still realizing, like, I haven't been to Lurelin Village. I haven't been there. I haven't checked out this place.
I haven't either. Yeah.
So many places I haven't even been to, and it's overwhelming, but in a good way.
I just finally got the whole map unlocked last night, and there are so many places I haven't been to that I'm like, oh yeah, that exists. I really need to go there. And then I set off on my journey there and get distracted by 8 other things. So again,
that was my goal originally. I was
Did-
gonna
did
unlock the
you-
whole map, but
Yeah,
then
that's my goal right now.
but then
I'm doing
but then
okay.
like as I'm going, there's
preference,
just so
too.
much stuff to do. I'm like, nope. If I unlock the whole map, I'm gonna have 700 quests, and I'm not. They're not gonna be organized in any way. I'm not gonna know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be like, oh, I want to do all the quests in this area, except all those quests are spread out because it's alphabetical. Nope. I'm just gonna stay here and do my quests.
You just described my gameplay process. I am in the middle of so many different things in so many different places. It's great.
And it's like your preference too, because I've almost mapped out the whole depths. I'm
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm pretty
I love
close. I'm pretty close. I'm about 90% there, but I haven't.
Really?
Yeah, but I haven't visited like 90% of the Sky Islands at this point. So,
Interesting.
after
I have
I
like
get done,
tiny pip. Just like that initial area in the depths that first.
That they kind of push you to go towards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Because I got scared and I had to leave.
I want to say
There's a lot down there.
I'm about 25%. I got about 25% of the depths explored. I spent like a whole day down there, like not an in-game day, like a real day. I spent like 8 hours down there, and
Like a real day.
yeah, like doing this one quest that I won't talk about, but it was crazy. And I was on Reddit the other day in the Tears of the Kingdom subreddit, and I was on a discussion post, and I was talking with someone about the depths, and someone replied to me and goes, "Hey, I've been playing this game for a couple days. How do you get down there?" I was like, "What do you mean? How do you get down there, dude? Jump in the hole. Get in there.
Jumping into the hole.
I was like,
though.
just
I
dive.
jumped in and I thought it was a water down there, but no. And then I came over immediately.
Paraglider. Paraglider is imperative to go.
I thought it was water. There was like dive in. I was like, okay.
When I hear that, when I hear the horn, I hit X. I'm like, all right.
Well, it's crazy how many different directions people go in this game. Like, my fiance, she has played probably more hours than I have, and she only just got the paraglider. She didn't even realize there was like a quest chain to get it. And
It's
I'm just
not
like,
super obvious.
No.
I could not wait to get it back.
Well, if you go where the game directs you initially, you'll
Mm-hmm.
probably get it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because you might get the quest there and decide, but I don't want to do that. I want to go visit my favorite areas. And next thing you know, you're 40 hours later and you're wondering why I have the paraglider and you don't. Well, you know that starting town that you went in and said, nope. Yeah, you might want to go back.
If you even went to that starting town.
Yeah, if you
in the
even
first
went there.
place.
Yeah.
I wonder if they did that by design, because some people are going to play this game without the paraglider for a really long amount of time, which doesn't seem like feasible to me. But I mean, you can technically
go
do
into
it.
the depths. You can get to the depths without a paraglider. There is a certain creature that will fly down through one of the holes that you can hop onto.
You can.
I won't spoil. I had that spoiled.
You could
for me
build a
because
machine.
I walked up in
to
the living
bring you
room and I was
down.
like, "What are you doing right now, Yulia?" She's like, "I'm just riding this thing." I'm like, "You can."
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that one alone until I find out how to do it.
Every
Damn it.
time I
amazing
see
one.
one of those things doing that, I stop and I watch it. And when it's in the depths, I stop and I watch it, and I'm like, wow.
But the thing is, if you don't have a paraglider, how do you even get on it?
Just jump.
Yeah, just jump. When it's
Timing.
going
Just
down
jump.
into the crater,
Just
just jump on it.
Just time the jump and
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Now I want to see like a no paraglider speed run. That sounds cool.
Getting
Yeah,
back
probably
up,
will be.
however,
One of you.
people will.
getting
do
back
it.
up is
get on top of it.
trickier
Which one of
because
us is doing the no paraglider speed run?
Andres, I
It's
picked
a
you.
new 3-heart challenge.
That
Getting
would be
back up from
quite
the
the
depths would
challenge.
suck.
Yeah.
Because there's ways you could. There's a couple different ways you could, but they're very spread out, and it would be very hard because I don't think you could get back on said animal.
You do have the Zonai devices, so I guess you don't need the paraglider. Huh.
Yeah.
You have to be
Build
very
yourself a
efficient
hot
with
air
your devices, though,
balloon
because you'd be building
machine
devices a
thing.
lot more
Yeah,
often.
hot air balloon actually would work.
Yeah. Hot air
I'll say
balloon.
I just did one of the dungeons, the one by actually there's a dungeon that has wind. That's all I'll say. I did that
was the first
dungeon.
one I did. Yeah.
And yeah, the game kind of leads you there. I felt like that was the right way to start for my first playthrough. And I have no idea how you can beat that without a paraglider. I have no idea. So
Flying
it would be
machines.
interesting to
I'm
find
sure
a
someone
Well,
way-
you know
will.
what?
Pyramids.
Yeah, the actual end part. I don't know how you would. I don't know how you do that. I mean, I don't even know how you would get some of the unlocks without it.
Maybe get
know.
like 3 stamina wheels. I don't know, but it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
You
know what you guys are
underestimate-
talking about. 'cause I
Yeah,
went
well,
to-
yeah.
I don't either. I haven't
Like,
done any
that's the best
dungeons
part
yet.
is like we're being so nondescript. Like, I don't even know
Yeah.
what's going on. Like, good. That's what we want. That's the spoiler-free conversation where you have no
I
idea
went
what the hell's going
to
on.
the dungeon that has water, and that was
I've been there
amazing.
too. I've done.
And
2
if the
dungeons.
rest of the dungeons are anything like that, incredible. And I know the
that
game was
dungeon
leading
that
you
has
towards
water upsets me. So I don't want to.
what upsets you.
I wasted all my Zonai devices, every single thing I had,
Why?
and all my Zonai charges, only to find out I didn't need to use any of them.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk after this because I want to.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy about it because now I'm down to like 4 Zonai charges and no Zonai devices in my
User
pocket
error?
anymore. Yeah. No, it worked. What I did worked, but that's the way this game
Not
is. There's so many
efficient.
different ways to do things, and then I found out there's a much easier way where I could have just used one item in my inventory and just been done with. Like, oh, there's the intended method. Why didn't I realize this?
Yeah,
that was the intent.
That happens to me all the time. And even like the smaller shrines, this game has an incredible way of making you feel like a genius and also like an idiot within the
Yeah.
span of like 10 seconds. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm awesome. And then immediately I'm dumb, really dumb. So I don't know how they're doing it, but some of those shrines.
The shrines,
just like,
especially, yeah.
what?
The
Yeah,
thing is
the
with
shrine- the
I
shrines
love the
really
shrines
make
this time
you-
around.
Well,
Yeah.
the shrines really make you feel like you're cheating the system sometimes. So you feel very smart, but then you actually find out what it was that they wanted you to do, and you're like, how did I not get this?
Yeah, I look it up afterwards, like after I beat it. I spent 3 hours on this one shrine that I struggled and I refused to look up the solution. And I did it this like really complicated way. And then afterwards I looked up the solution and I was like, oh, that's how
Yep.
you do it. I feel so stupid.
Yeah.
I got
3
stuck on.
hours.
Hey, that's how the game was designed, though. At least
Yeah.
I'm convinced that's the way they designed it. Because like one of the earliest shrines on the tutorial island, which I'm pretty sure is not a spoiler, like there's like a wooden plank and there's 2 hooks, and they clearly want you to put those 2 hooks on the platform and just ride the rail. But I already saw from Nintendo's Twitter that you could shield grind on those
Yeah,
rails.
they did that in the treehouse. Yep.
So I just built myself a little ramp, and I just Tony Hawk pro skated my way up there and just grind my way down. And I was like, yeah.
I tried to look
I-
really cool with this shield grinding rail thing and I just fell off.
Yeah,
That can
I've only done it
happen.
once and I nailed it. It was in the starting area when they have that platform they want you to put the hook on and ride. And then I sat there and I actually tried to do it legit, messed it up, and the platform kept falling off. And I was like, oh, now I don't have anything else. You know what? I remember that treehouse. I'm going to climb up and just grind. Nailed it on my first try, and I'm too afraid to try it again because I'll never nail it on my first try
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
That's one thing that I didn't know you could do and haven't tried yet. So
Yeah,
another thing I'm gonna add to
Treehouse
my list of
spoiled that
stuff
for
to
me.
do.
I
Right
wouldn't
after-
even
Yeah.
thought about trying that if Treehouse.
I stayed away from that tree.
Thanks, Jose.
Me
was
too.
there.
I didn't watch it.
I
at
knew there
all.
would be plenty of spoilers. in
Yeah,
there.
I don't
It's
know.
like-
Yeah,
the
Jose
underground in
Otero just
there,
popping
too,
in.
and I
I
was
used
like,
to
nope.
review games like this. I got this. He's just throwing it up. I'm like, dude, you're showing so much stuff right now. What is happening? This game is crazy.
It's funny because I also avoid the treehouse, but I keep hearing things that came from the treehouse that are kind of like crazy, like that. I didn't know about shield surfing on the rails. That's cool, but apparently your horses translate over from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, so sweet. I looked in the stable and all my horses were there with all my the names I gave them were all named after my pets. So I'm like, oh, it's so cute. They're so here.
Yep.
I named
Nessie named it.
Ganondorf's horse in Breath of the Wild Nate years
Oh.
ago, and then when I checked the stable, I looked at it. I was like, I named him Nate.
Nate
That's
is
hilarious.
Nate.
I instantly
Back.
texted Nate. I was like, I forgot I did that.
Hello,
my
my old
Ganondorf
friend.
horse is named Tom
So-
Nook.
That's a good one. Oh man. So how about like those abilities? We haven't talked a lot about them yet. The Master Hand or Ultra Hand, right? That's what it's called.
Sure. Yes.
I don't
Sure.
remember.
Yeah.
I don't really pay attention to what the name. What is it? Ultra Hand, Ascend,
Recall.
Fuse.
and Fuse. See, I don't call my name. I just know where they are when I'm on the little wheel thing.
Little wheel.
So how we feeling about these new abilities? Because these obviously were the replacement for the abilities we got at the beginning of Breath of the Wild. Is how we doing with this? Because they're very, very different. Well, in many ways, they're very different from the old abilities. I know some people use the one ability like Magnesis all the time, but what are we feeling?
Recall made me super mad the other day because it didn't work how I wanted it to. It is a great ability, but the other day there was a Korok, and I had to get him to a spot, and so the spot was way up. I went up to that spot, took a rock, dropped it down the hill, fused the Korok to the rock, hit Recall on the rock to try and zip him up there. Instantly, the bond broke and left the Korok on the ground. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!
Korok's too heavy for the
You
rock.
got to be kidding me!"
Oh, no.
That backpack.
I was like,
Poor
"All right,
Korok.
now I gotta build like a giant Zonai machine to get this stupid Korok up here."
Launch him with a
But
rocket.
no, I like
Launch
the
him.
abilities.
Launch him with a rocket. I've seen many
Yeah.
people trying to do the
Yeah.
rocket
Hilarious.
launch.
Poor
love it.
Koraks, abused
that.
Koraks.
Oh yeah, I see people
Oh,
torturing the
there's a lot of
Koroks,
videos
throwing them
about
down into
Korok
the
abuse.
depths, and
Crucifying them.
Crucifying, yeah.
Crucifixion is really dark.
that's becoming.
Darren,
Yeah.
I'll say that I'm not saying it can't. I don't know if I can't say for sure it will work, but it might have just come down to how you fuse them, because sometimes the bonds can break just depending on what they hit and how they move out in the world. So it's kind of like in
Correct.
real life. Like if you attach something in a more snug position, it might hold or it might break.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back there and try that because I think I just got mad and left. I was like, well, what do I even have this ability for? Left, but no, I should have tried something else. You're right. And then I know a lot of people were nervous about not having all the abilities from Breath of the Wild, having these different abilities, even though some of them are a little similar. I don't know about you guys. I'm not having any problems.
Yeah,
So-
I thought-
Alter Hand is
I-
pretty hard for me, I have to say. Much
Yeah.
harder than Magnesis, which is kind of like the Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild comp, I guess, for it.
Right.
I think my problem is I'm not very good at like imagining things in 3D space.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
like when there's like rotation, I feel like I never know which way to turn it, even though there is like a Y and X axis.
Right.
And then the other thing that I've realized that I've been doing is like when I use Ultra Hand and like it glues it to other pieces, I'm like, that's definitely in the middle. And then I put it down and glue it, and then I look at it from a different angle and it's like totally off center.
I do that.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, my spatial awareness is just not good. I think as I've been playing, I've been getting a little bit better, but that's been a struggle for me. And I feel like the shrines are very
Ultra Hand.
heavily reliant on Ultra Hand. So I
Yeah.
think that's why it's taking me so long to get through some of the shrines, because I'm so bad at building those things that it's been a little bit of a struggle. So think
Yeah, I
that's
really
the
like
one
the
ability.
shrines too, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised at how much of them focus on some sort of an ultra hand thing that you need to build.
Mhm.
I sort of feel like Breath of the Wild had its fair amount of shrines that were based on one of those abilities, but I feel like this game so far, from what I've played, it does seem to be very ultra hand heavy. So I'm curious to see how that balance plays out as I go into more of those.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a bunch of shrines. Almost every single one involved Ultra Hand in some way.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think it's because if we remember in Breath of the Wild, like there was intended ways to do the shrines, but then you could also do it with other ways because a lot of the abilities could break the game. Like you could stasis something instead of having to use Cryonis to move it across water or something. You could have these alternate ways to do things that aren't, at least what I can tell so far, necessarily there, because Ultra Hand is kind of the object manipulation tool. The other stuff doesn't really manipulate objects that much besides recall.
I
Yeah.
kind of miss
Yeah.
stasis a little bit, honestly, because recall is sort of the stasis replacement, I think, but it doesn't have the same like
Yeah, it doesn't really
no
do
pun
the
intended
same thing.
impact as stasis, because
Yeah.
you can't use it creatively in that way to solve things. So I find myself wishing sometimes, I'm like, oh, I wish I had stasis right now because that would really help me in
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah, the most creative thing I've used recall for was a side quest, and I had to get all these objects out of the water back into this person's carriage, and I was like, man, how am I going to do this? I'm sitting there using the Ultra Hand, and I'm gluing things together and putting it back in there. Like, some of these are kind of far out there. Do I want to drop a platform? I'm like, wait a second, recall. recall,
Yeah.
recall.
That's
And they
the
all just start
ability-
flying back, and I'm like, okay, but I wasn't even in that mindset until I realized, you know what? What happens if I recall them? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this must be what they intended me to do, and I wasn't even thinking in that headspace.
Mhm.
That's
I
totally
use
the ability where
recall-
I have not grasped all of the non-obvious uses. Like a few days ago, I saw that thing that I think everybody's probably seen of, launching the wing when you don't have the wheels, of you kind of put it out there and you bring it back. And my mind was blown. I feel like there's like a million little things like
Yeah.
that either I just haven't just become obvious to me, or that the community may not have figured out yet.
Yeah, the first thing
Right.
I did with recall was boomerang. Oh baby, being able to double the boomerang and then start. Oh, it's fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Fantastic.
I
Any
gotta
sort of
say-
The
weapon
recall, it's
throwing
coming, oh,
would
it's
be
about. I'm about to
great.
catch it. No, it's gonna go back, and I'm gonna start whacking with a different weapon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I've used recall quite a bit in the shrines, I gotta say. I feel like a lot of the shrines I've stumbled across, I've had to use recall, unless I'm stupid and that was the harder way to do it. But
Hey,
like you were talking about the wing, that's been a big frustration for me, is trying to launch that stupid wing when I don't have a track. I didn't even think about using
Yeah,
recall.
just
Another
ultra
thing
hand.
I'm gonna add to the list.
Ultra
Yeah.
hand it
try.
up and recall, and then you're in
Yeah.
the air.
I never would have thought of that, because I've
no,
tried
I've
to
only
go
done that
wheels under
once, and I felt like an idiot when I realized I could do that. I'm like, are you serious right now?
I-
So
I
I can
feel like an
I can
idiot
already
now.
basically start at a higher point, and I'm just being dumb. And
Yeah.
this was so much
Yeah.
easier if I would have
I
done
feel
that.
like an idiot now, because I'll make it. I'll put fans
Yeah.
on or whatever,
The
and I'll
fans.
set it on the edge, like teetering on the edge, and I'll hop on it, activate the fans, and then just nosedive. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm gliding. I guess I'm
Shift your
gliding
weight.
now.
Shift your weight, Darren. Get a little.
And then
lift.
I tried to drop one in the air as I'm gliding to see if I could kind of like
Mhm.
catch
Land on
it
it.
after I dropped it. Doesn't work. Don't try it.
Needs
Does
momentum.
not work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what's so cool about this, though, right? Because like we're learning more and more, right? Like at first, recall seems really limited, but once you realize you can combo it with Ultra Hand, your brain starts to be like, oh, so I can do this. Oh, I can do this. I saw a video where someone was spinning an object with Ultra Hand and then used recall, and then it became an offensive weapon against a giant boss, right? Or like how we just talked
that
about
was really
how
cool. I saw
Yeah, that
video
was
too.
neat. Yeah, it took
It-
out
it's-
a high
it's
axe or
extremely
something,
cool.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting how they did that.
And every day I'm finding something else new I can do with recall. Like I was in the depths and I fell off my wing glider, and it was going for like we're talking about like I don't know how to like say it, but a really long ways off. I thought there was no way I'd be able to get it back, but recall has such great range.
Yeah,
Mhm.
huge range.
You can get it, and then so I recalled it from like extremely far out, and it was coming back, and I saw it way above me. I was like, "Oh, I already fell there, so I can get there." But because it was so far out that by the time recall ended, it didn't go back to the cliff, but just before, and then it fell back down to where I was at, and I was able to get back to it.
Mm.
Yeah, recall is so interesting, because like I was talking about earlier with the bosses, when I was talking about the different ways that people beat this certain boss. I'm not going to spoil the boss or anything, but I was using Ultra Hand and Ascend. I didn't even think about recall, and someone was like, well, I use recall to do this. I'm like, wow, why didn't I think of that? I just find myself forgetting that I have these incredibly useful tools at my disposal all the time, and you can use all of them just to your complete advantage at all times, and I just forget about it constantly. And when I remember it again, it's that feeling of I feel like an idiot. Well, I feel like an idiot.
This
No, you
team
just
does a
forget
great job making us feel that way.
Exactly.
you
Bad for
just
self-esteem.
forget that you have that ability. That's I had the same thing. Like I was exploring the depths, and I built a car, which took me a long time. It had like headlights and all the stuff.
Wow.
Like it took a while to put that thing together, and it just suddenly just skewed to the left, and it just went down a cliff. And I was like, man, really? And then I suddenly realized, just in a moment of clarity, I was like, oh, I can just jump down there, recall it, and hopefully it will be able to go back far enough to go back to that ledge where I fell off of. And lo and behold, it did. It did go back, and my day was good.
was not ruined after.
Happy again.
I was
So
happy
your
again.
car veering off to the left, like I find trying to get stuff so symmetrical so that it doesn't do that. Like Krista was saying, it's just I'll spend like
It's my
15 minutes
struggle.
trying to build this one thing. I'll place like a wheel, and I'll be like, oh, that doesn't line up with the other one, and then I break it off and try to put it back on and do that over and over until I get it right.
The breaking
It's-
off is kind of annoying. Sometimes you
Oh,
break
I
it and
literally have to lift my whole
thing
hand and
comes
go and do
apart.
this with the stick because I can't do it fast enough.
Yeah,
with my
I can't
thumb.
do it fast enough. It feels
Ugh.
hard to grab like certain things. Yeah, that whole like, and
I wish they would have just had like a button combo to release.
Or like click the stick.
clicked it.
maybe-
Yeah, click the
let me
stick.
click it.
The click the stick doesn't do anything. Like
Because when you're an ultra
Use
hand, you can't
the-
use the
the
scope
motion.
anyway.
Just
Right,
use motion. You
right.
can just.
Yeah.
I
It's
wonder if there's a way
weird
to
control.
remap
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
just-
think there's a way to. Can you remap the
Well,
the stick wiggle?
it's
I
a
don't think
series
so.
of movements, so I want to say no.
No, yeah.
No.
And the whole
I
thing is
understand
moving
the idea
around. You
behind
know,
it.
you don't want that.
Doesn't
Sometimes
necessarily
it,
mean it's a good idea.
Start
Man, I
tweeting at
haven't
the
had
Zelda
any
team. Tell them
problem.
to patch it.
I haven't had any problems with that. It's been fine, just wiggling the
Well,
stick.
you're a
maybe.
little Twitch shooter gamer over there. I'm like a
Yeah.
RPG. You
Yeah.
know, my
Yeah.
right
Thumbs
thumb
aren't
is just
that
moving.
fast.
I do the
camera.
full-on Mario Party palm on the stick. That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Like
that-
I need to
that
get
N64
one of
works.
these
controller.
gloves again. You know,
Like-
when we're taking it-
Exactly.
That works every time. Just put the palm on the stick. Like,
Maybe it's
the
my
whole
years of
thing
Call of
falls
Duty
apart. You have to have a
experience.
gentle but fast touch. It's hard.
It's the years of Call of Duty experience with flicking the sticks and whatnot. Maybe that's why. Or I
I-
just,
I-
That's probably
yeah.
what it is.
or
I'm
that
gonna
I
be
just
honest.
got
Instead
brain
here,
Joy-Con.
instead here
That
I
might help.
am holding it. Oh, I need to disconnect.
Yeah, I change my grip on the controller a lot. Like I'm using weird finger gymnastics.
I
on
think
some of the
me not
buttons.
wanting to disconnect is how I got good at using it and getting good at the angles because I'm like, I don't want to keep redoing this. I like forced myself for like an hour to just play with basics. Like, okay, here's some planks, here's some wheels, here's some fans. I'm gonna figure this out one way or another. I'm gonna stop having to redo things all the damn time.
Just get
'cause
it
I'm
right
putting
the
them in wrong
first
spot.
time, Krista.
What do they say?
What were you gonna say,
Like measure,
Conrad?
And so
measure twice,
that's
cut
because I
once. Is that
dedicated
what
an
they
hour
say?
to
Twice,
force
cut
myself to
once.
learn it. You know.
Don't. I will never build you a house because it would be off center and like tilted.
I'm actually
wall.
kind of curious. How many of you messed around with the stabilizer? Like,
Oh,
the-
I hate that thing. I hate that
it's
thing.
so
Dude,
useful.
Oh,
Oh,
It's-
I've
it's
only
the
used
best.
it. I've really only used it for catapults because it's so fun to catapult with it.
Yeah,
I
it
had
does.
a couple
but-
shrines there where I needed to use them, and that's really where the only time I've used them.
Well,
I
you
hate
can
those.
stabilize anything with it, and it works so well. Like, I'll just give a quick example. I wanted to see what would happen if I built like a propeller, like on a boat. So
Mm.
I put a wheel, I put like two planks, like slightly skewed, so it like propels you forward in a way, and then a second plank on the front where I could stand on. But every time I would activate the wheel, it would start spinning, but it would start spinning both sides. So also the side I was standing on. So it would just launch me off. And it was really annoying. So I was like, what if I put a stabilizer on this? Would that work? Would that actually do anything? And lo and behold, it only spun the side that I wanted it to
That's
spin.
awesome.
And it just created this little submarine type of, I don't know what it was. It was
Little
some
fan boat.
The submarine.
fan. It was
A
an
fan boat.
absolute monstrosity, but it worked. The stabilizer is really, really helpful.
I think I've even
for-
tried that yet.
Hmm.
I don't even know if I have it. Maybe
Yeah,
I do have it, but I didn't.
I
look.
haven't even gotten a steering stick yet, and I'm very angry.
Oh, I
What?
have the steering
I'm
stick
doing
is hard
everything
to
without a
use.
steering stick.
You need
I'm
that
doing
stick.
everything.
You
Like
need
I have to
it.
line it
That's
up.
hard.
Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
Steering
I,
stick is
I
hard to
will
use,
find
though.
it. That's the thing, though.
I'm
like,
gonna
we
say
can
one
play so
tip.
much.
One tip: go to the sky. You're gonna find it eventually.
Well, I kind
need
of
the
figured it.
capsule
I've been to the
machines.
sky. I keep finding everything else in the sky but the stick. But
I gotta say, I didn't find it for a while, but I've had it for a day or two.
as soon as
now,
I
and I'm-
find the vending machine, that's what I call it anyway.
Yeah.
The vending machine that gives me the stick, I will empty that thing every time till I
The-
get all the sticks.
I'm glad that the vending machines or the little capsule machines, whatever you want to call it, is also in the
Gotcha.
ground level.
Gotcha.
The gotchas,
Gotcha
yeah.
machines, yeah.
I'm a gotcha
Absolutely.
sucker, so I'm into it. But like, there was like I ran into one in near like Kakariko Village as well. So I was like, oh, it's good that it's down here too. You don't have to like keep going back up there to
Yeah.
get to it. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of got them all over there. I thought they were only going to be in the sky. So it was
Yeah,
kinda
me
interesting
too.
When you find a couple on the ground, it's like, oh,
Yeah, it's
I mean, it makes
useful.
sense
And-
because there's some Zonai ruins on the surface. So
yeah.
Yeah, some of it just fell down to the. Actually, I'm curious. Is it completely random, or is it
No,
'Cause
they.
Each
No.
one has a certain set that they can give you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
if you look
that.
at your map and you zoom in, it'll be like a green dot. It'll tell you what ones it has and how many are left of each one.
Yeah. And if it has a question
Oh.
mark, you haven't gotten it yet. So you should keep rolling until you get
Yeah.
what that one has.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you know. So that way you can kind of zip, because most of them have some sort of shrine biome, so you can just kind of zip zop around till you get
Yeah.
the material you want for whatever you're trying to
Oh,
do.
that's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's good to
I
know.
didn't know either. Someone pointed it out while I was live streaming, like, "Hey, why don't you open your map?" I was like, "Why would I open my map on a vending machine?" Oh, well, that's where they put the information.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
I mean, I couldn't just like walk up to it and have it tell me the no.
No, there's got to be four clicks deep.
Well, it's
Yeah.
nice because if you're somewhere else and you're like, oh, which
Yeah,
machine
when you
do I
want to
gotta
look at
go
ones that
to
are
to
far
get that?
away. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's nice.
Have you guys
Alright.
been playing in pro mode?
Yes.
I like pro mode.
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah.
time, all the time. I love
It's so
pro mode.
clean.
I need to
love
have
enabling
the
everything.
screenshot ready at a moment's notice for
Yeah.
a beautiful scene. So
Yeah.
I was
I
in the
probably
Apollo
should
region last
have.
night again for the
So-
first time in this game.
I
and
haven't
was
turned
like
that on yet. Hold
every
on, let me
5
turn
steps.
on pro mode.
Like,
I'm
once
I'm
a-
actually
To be fair, if you
upset
just
I haven't done
started,
it.
if you just started the game, it's not recommended to turn on pro mode because for the longest time I didn't even know you could detach objects. Because if you turn off pro mode, it also
Oh,
turns
it
off
doesn't
all
show
the
you.
it turns off all the
the
little
prompts.
button prompts at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't know that you could, after you glue things together, you can also loosen them again, just detach them from each other by wiggling the stick, like doing the palm thing. I just didn't know about that. In fact, the first time I jumped down to the surface, I just got lucky because I didn't know how to go into skydiving mode because it shows that prompt if you're in the normal
Mm-hmm.
HUD. But
Yep.
if you're in the pro HUD, it doesn't show you that. So I had no idea how to actually start going into like, the skydiving where you can steer
Yeah.
yourself. So I just fell down straight normal. And I think the first time I just got it, just got lucky somehow. But it took me a while before I figured out how it worked, the skydiving.
Here's
it
an
definitely
idea,
makes sense.
Nintendo. Customizable HUD.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yeah.
just want the mini map.
Like I
Or
just
like
either
a
want to like
compass,
if I can get rid of everything else but keep the mini map and I can move
Exactly.
it where I want and make it however big or small
Yes,
I
or
want
like
and
a
my
little-
hearts maybe in a corner just
a
because
little
I
bit.
only have like 8, so like if there's some things that one shot me, it'd be kind of nice to know if I'm topped off.
You only
but-
have
Or
8?
just an easy way to
Okay,
toggle
Darren, not all
to.
of
I
us.
don't have to go like
I
deep
play the
into
game
a
the way
system
you do.
menu.
Little mister over there.
Like,
How
it's
many
just come out
stamina
now.
wheels do you
I'm never
have?
gonna beat the game with less than 10 hearts, so you just don't worry about it.
Can we talk
I
about
have, like-
difficulty?
Sure.
yeah.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I've ran into a few of the Gleocs.
Oh,
And
I haven't taken one out yet.
Yeah, I really
either.
pride myself on trying to get good at the combat, right? Like I'm not saying I'm a master, right? But like it was fun trying to learn how to fight a Lionel and beat it with 3 hearts on the Great Plateau in master mode, right? Like that's a
Yep.
fun experience. So whenever I run into a boss, I press start, and I save and I'm like, all right, if I die, just reload, just go back at it. And I'm still early game, right? Like, even though I'm like 30 hours in, I feel like I'm only like 20-ish% done with the game, maybe. And the Gleocs are ridiculous. Like they're
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure how one time I came close, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna save and I'm gonna literally waste everything I have. I used all my bomb arrows, I used everything, and all my weapons broke. Like my strongest weapons were not doing that much when I finally like got it down to like put on a series of blows. And I only got to like 20%. And it entered a whole other phase that was just like insane. So I look forward to finally be able to beat these things and kind of mastering and figuring out the different tricks. But it's just kind of crazy because maybe it's just my first experience with it now, and maybe like a couple years from now, or a few months from now, or even a few days from now, I'll be like, oh, they're easy. But like I feel that they are harder than even like the Lionels were in Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Wow.
Don't
I've
even
tried to
try
fight
if
them
you don't have
twice.
arrows.
Yeah,
I
I've
think a
tried to
lot of
fight 'em
enemies,
twice,
not
and I got
even
my ass
the-
kicked.
Yeah, I think a lot of enemies, not even like the Gleok one shot electrocuted
Yeah,
me. It was
from far away.
horrifying.
Yeah.
And but even like some of the smaller enemy, like when you're just like starting out, you're so squishy, poor little Link. And those enemies, they're not joking around. They're like giving you some hard you're running into some hard enemies like right at the start, and a lot of them are like one-shotting me. I'm a little better now. Obviously, it's been a couple of days, and I have more hearts and better armor and stuff like that, and better weapons. But I think the difficulty spike is quite a bit higher than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, especially if you don't fuse often enough. Like
Yeah.
fusing is so essential in combat. Otherwise, you're just gonna have weapons break all the time, or
Yeah, I found myself like, oh, this is a
yeah.
decent weapon. I want to wait till I have a really good fuse. And the next thing you
Yeah.
know, all my other weapons are gone, and I didn't fuse it yet. And I'm like, well,
Yep.
that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do the daily chores that I call them chores, where I fuse and I cook. So you spent like 30 minutes every day after you play to like prep for the next day. So you have a full inventory of fused weapons, you have a full inventory of, you know, all your food, but it takes time to do all those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very time
I
consuming.
find I fuse weapons on the fly a lot, but cooking, yeah, I gotta go around, gather a bunch of ingredients, or just cook up what I've already got. I take, like 10 minutes out of my playtime to do. All right, I gotta make a bunch of this, or else I'm gonna die.
Please
repeatedly.
stack the recipes so we can just cook it all at once.
Yes.
It's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, some of those, the little Animal Crossing like in that way. It's like we just need some quality of life stuff. Be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they made progress with the recipe stuff a little bit, but it's still not really where it should be. Like everything else feels so polished. It kind of feels like this might have been an afterthought. And I don't know. Maybe we'll get an improvement in the DLC or something. That's what I keep hoping for. But we didn't really get the Breath of the Wild improvements until Tears of the Kingdom. So I don't really know if they're going to address the recipe book thing. It's cool that I can select a recipe and just cook it. Or like if I select an apple, it can show me all my recipes for it. That's neat. But also, why can't I just open up a cookbook? And if I just click on things,
Just say like cook 5 of these things.
Yeah, like,
and then I'll just do it.
like, look, I have all the ingredients. I want to make a bunch of stamina stuff. Just let me do it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But oh well, maybe it's because right now they'll probably argue, because we have those single-use things where you can only cook one meal on the fire. Okay, well when I'm not at that, then
That's lame. I was like, oh, this is a one-use thing. I was like, this is
Yeah.
useless to me. I don't want this.
It's gotten me out of a couple hairy situations when I really, really need to heal at least once to get myself out of a situation. But I mean, yeah, I really wish you could at least like 3 times.
Yeah, seems to be kind of sit in your inventory for like a one use like that is a little, yeah.
How about you, Conrad? How are you feeling on this stuff?
Specifically on the cooking part, or
just any of it, man. There's so much. This game.
This game just completely overwhelms you. Like I was one of the lucky few who was allowed to preview, and I was just completely lost because you have how much time? 20 minutes to get accustomed to the controls, and with Ultra Hand, and you already have Ultra Hand, you are lost. Like you try to figure out the 3D controls, and then suddenly. Yeah, let's just say that a lot of the footage that we captured did not end up in the preview because of that. It's like 5 minutes just tinkering around with Ultra Hand, and but at least you master it after a while. It's obviously this game is built in order to be played for years because it's going to be a very long time until the next Zelda game comes out. They want you to take one step at a time. Like people in Japan probably don't have time to play for 6-7 hours nonstop. They play handheld, probably on the bus from work to school, and then they can maybe complete one shrine, maybe unlock one tower, and that's the kind of approach. But I'm going to be honest, I played a little bit like that as well, because you constantly, as it has been mentioned also, you get distracted all the time. Like when you launch from one of the towers, you spend, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes in the sky. Then suddenly you see, I can jump down there, spend another hour. And then, okay, I'm going to re-explore this section. I want to see what's changed. That is the brilliant part about this game. It's like constantly you are retreading the same steps. But as you do so, you constantly discover caves. And caves are, I love them so much. And the fact that when you reach the bottom, you can just press ascend and you are at the top of a mountain peak. And
Beautiful.
oh yeah, I saved 1 hour of climbing. or something
That's
like that.
exactly why they made it too. If you saw the interview, he's like, "Yeah, this was just a dev tool we used because to get out of the caves because it
Yeah.
was too tedious to go back and then realize we should probably just make this an ability if we're saying this is tedious."
That was one of those dumb moments for me where I was just walking out the caves, like, all right, I'm done trying to walk out, and it only occurred to me recently that I can ascend out of them.
Yeah, and you never know, you might find something on top of the cave you weren't even thinking about. So it's yeah, it's nice.
I'm kind of curious, and especially from you, Connor, because I know you have to head out soon. But
Yeah.
like in your experience, like how would you say, like, do you feel like Tears of the Kingdom feels more like a Zelda game? I say that in air quotes because, you know, of course it's Zelda, right? But there's that debate of like the traditionalist from like Ocarina of Time through Skyward Sword that since Breath of the Wild, it's kind of strayed away a bit. Like, how do you feel about Tears of the Kingdom? Has it kind of been more of a hybrid, its own thing? What's your take?
Well, I've said this way too many times already, not in this podcast, but in uploads and other podcasts. I think the theme of this game is one very clear one. It's endless combinations. And I think when it comes to the classical and modern Zelda approach, I think it's also a combination. I know most participants here have probably not completed the dungeons, so I'm not going to go much further than that, but I'm just going to say that yeah, there's a nice blend in them also when it comes to classic and modern. There is, of course, traces of Divine Beasts here, but I think they learned from some of the feedback. And sometimes I wish maybe they could have gone a little bit further, but this is a process. I think this is the first step, and then we're going to get future Zelda games, and then we're going to see until they find that perfect blend and combination between what they introduced in Breath of the Wild and what worked better in Zelda's past. And then that way you don't end up with the perfect Zelda, but you gradually just get a better and better and better experience as we move into the 40s of the franchise.
Yeah. I feel like it is heading that direction. Like, I feel Tears of the Kingdom definitely has more for traditional Zelda fans, traditional 3D Zelda fans, I guess I should say, or traditional fans since Link to the Past. It's a nice middle ground.
I agree, and I'm in the minority with traditional Zelda as far as dungeons goes. My favorite part of Zelda games was exploring and messing around in the overworld and whatnot. And then I was like, okay, I got to do a dungeon. I'm going to sit down and get through this. And dungeons are great. I have dungeons that I like, but that's why I really like a lot of the shrines, is because, all right, in and out. We'll be in and out. 20 minutes, we'll do a great puzzle, whatever. And then I got to the dungeon, or the only dungeon that I've done, and I won't talk about like specifics, but how I felt about it was I really enjoyed it. It wasn't as far as like a more traditional sense of a dungeon in like Ocarina of Time, but it felt like a middle ground, and I think they need to do some more exploring with that middle ground, like you were saying, Conrad. But I think they're going in the right direction for sure. I really do love this blend of more of the callbacks to traditional Zelda while still keeping the sort of new franchise feel that they've got going on now.
I'm exactly like you, Darren. I really struggle with traditional Zelda dungeons, mostly because there is just that one solution. And like we were saying in our experience with the shrines, like a lot of us come to a conclusion that is not the one that the developers set out. So having those other paths is so huge for me. And I would say I was a Zelda. I wouldn't say I was a lover of the franchise until we got to Breath of the Wild. So I've been staying away from the dungeons. I want to save those for later on. But if they can have something that feels like a traditional dungeon, but still gives you a lot of paths to get through it, and you don't feel like you're railroaded and you don't feel dumb if you can't come up with that one solution, that sounds great to me.
Yeah, the one that I did, how you just described it, that's how I felt, because it adds the elements of, it's sort of like bigger shrine puzzles and more of a thematic setting, as Zelda dungeons do in the past. There's more of a thematic setting with more bigger shrine-esque puzzles that may or may not have more than one solution. And I'm pretty sure a couple of the ones I did, I wasn't supposed to do it that way, but it worked. So it is a really great blend where you don't feel railroaded. Like, you have to find this key to put there, and you need to do it this way by going here now. Like, that's not how you feel at all in these dungeons, and I love it.
So I know Monster Maze and Commonwealth have to dip out here in a little bit. Do you guys have like any just final big thoughts on this? Like, just compared to Breath of the Wild, the Zelda series on the whole, do we like the direction Zelda's going in? What do you guys think?
You go first, Conrad.
No, I'm actually looking for one specific thing I want to bring up before I leave. So, yeah, Monster Maze first.
How do you feel about the mazes, Don?
The mazes,
Yeah.
they're great. Yeah, they're pretty awesome. No, I've been a bit torn about it. I'm a big fan of the older franchise too, like just the older formula as well. But I do realize that this is the way the franchise had to go in to stay relevant, because I have been there from the very beginning. And about like when Skyward Sword came along, that's when I started getting Zelda fatigue, and it was reinvigorated by Breath of the Wild. Like my passion for the series got launched into the stratosphere by Breath of the Wild. So I think it's gonna be baby steps in the beginning. Tears of the Kingdom already changes quite a lot. Already starts to gravitate a little bit more to like what some people have been saying, like it starts to get into that territory where it's like it feels more traditional, but it still has the craziness of Breath of the Wild, the open world aspect of it. And I feel like the next Zelda game, whatever it's going to be, is going to close the gap even more. Because at some point, you can already tell after Breath of the Wild, people were starting to complain about the divine beasts. Like, these are not Zelda dungeons. Get out of here. And the new ones that we have now, I won't get into specifics, but they do feel more like traditional Zelda dungeons. But it's not there yet, but it's very close within this formula, at least. One thing I can say is that I ended up doing a lot of climbing in my dungeon experiences so far. And other people were like, oh, you didn't use the, I don't know, mine carts, or you didn't use this, or you didn't use that. I was like, no, I can just climb this probably. And yeah, and Ascend is a very useful ability.
Hard to get out of that Breath of the Wild mindset after all the years of climbing.
So it lets you do that same little thing that you do in the shrines, where you're like, I know this is what they probably want me to do, but I'm going to do it this way. And they let you do that in the main dungeons as well. And that's really awesome, which is not something like Kit said, back in the day, it was like, there's one solution. This is exactly how you're going to go through this dungeon. And there's no other way to do it unless you're like speed running stuff and like game breaking stuff. But other than that, there's like a pre-programmed route to take. And the fact that it gives you more of an ability to choose, that's really awesome to me. That's a great middle ground.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
I'm going to summarize.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm going to summarize because I need to dip. I'm sorry, but the thing is, I'm going to be honest and say that the blend is like, it's obvious that the whole thing is about combinations, but they also have the Zelda team has clearly had a mindset, and I think it can be summarized by using the Triforce pretty much. It's the power of your imagination, the wisdom of thinking outside the box, and the courage of being creative. Like, if you have that mindset in your head all the time while playing this game, you're going to do well. You just need to be aware of the possibilities you have. And if you take full advantage of that, then you will thrive. That's when you will be able to accomplish the stuff we've seen in trailers that you see on clips on YouTube and the likes. So, yeah, I think this game's potential is being discovered right now. And it's not going to be fully utilized for another couple of months, most likely.
Yeah.
was a really good analogy.
That was great. And now
Yeah.
I saw the props and everything just ready to go. It's like he's like, I need a moment. I'm going to set this up.
Are you speaking at the UN next?
Well, I was in politics
speech
for 10
there.
years, so
There you go.
Yeah, he actually was a politician before this.
Oh yeah, speaking of, this is actually the logo. Like, it might look just like a link pin, right?
Yeah.
But this is actually the logo of the youth party I was part of. So I was just
so
like,
cool.
yeah,
That's
yeah, it's
great.
like the sword, the blue tunic, the shield. It was just like, yeah, this is just
This
perfect.
kind of fits. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
the last hero then of the land that we should be depending on. It's you all along. Okay.
Yeah. When Zelda says, Link, I don't think you can save it this time. Oh, that's because they're waiting for you.
Yeah, the story is pretty crazy. That's all I'm gonna say. So it's time to leave.
All right, later, man. Have a good rest
I
of your
thought.
day.
Talk soon.
See
Have
ya.
a good day. Bye.
Yeah, I'm gonna dip as well.
Yep.
Got dinner plans.
Yes.
Ooh.
Don, let me ask you
I
one
haven't had
question.
lunch. I haven't had dinner. I think I had a
Oh,
cheesesteak
sure.
for breakfast.
One question, because I know you enjoyed a lot of Elden Ring, right? Like, how do the depths kind of remind you a bit of the Soulsborne games?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
one big difference for me was that in Elden Ring, when you went underground, it was obviously it was amazing, but there was a lot of scenery there that you were not allowed to go because that's just not the type of game it is. Like, you see these huge buildings and structures, and they look awesome from a distance, and you really get a sense of scale. Like, I'm just this tiny ant, and but in Breath of the Wild, or in Tears of the Kingdom rather, there's the big difference that you can actually climb those. Like, anything you see, you can get to it, and that was not possible in Elden Ring. So it kind of elevated it beyond that part, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, the underground and Elden Ring felt more confined in that sense. Not that it was bad, because I loved Elden Ring and the underground and Elden Ring, but like you were saying in Tears of the Kingdom, it just feels more accessible in the way of exploration.
Yeah, you see it, you can get to it, which was not possible in Elden Ring because you're
Right.
much more grounded, cannot
Mhm.
climb anything, and for me at least, it did call back to it, the sense of scale that I experienced in the depths. I was like, I'm walking on a giant tree root right now, and it's like the size of a football stadium, and I'm just this tiny little dude, but I'm gonna get there at some point.
Not to mention, in Tears of the Kingdom, you think you're scared for your life walking around in the depths. In Elden Ring, you're scared to peek around any corner anywhere. So the Tears of the Kingdom's depths might feel a little more accessible in that regard too. You may not feel as in danger as you are in Elden Ring or any Soulsborne game, really.
Well, it's darker though, so that's the horror part of it all. It's that you don't know what is in front of you. You're like,
I'm gonna shoot a bright bloom over here, and
you
all
can
of a sudden
brighten it
a
up,
whole camp of enemies is coming at me that I didn't even know existed.
But this is the last thing I actually need to bring up, and that is a little gripe of mine. It's how much you have to scroll through menus in this game. Especially when you get a lot of materials, then it's just scroll, scroll, scroll. It feels like it never ends. Especially if I need bomb flowers to progress here, because of course I broke my previous rock and a long hard stick, whatever it's called. So there's just so many ways of doing things, and it's like you have the realism, and then you have the, what would I say, surrealism in this game. Like, there's never going to be a game that goes this far beyond in recreating what we can do in our own world, and then adding so much on top of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Which is why we're gonna wait 7 years for next Zelda.
Yeah, exactly. Then they will just blow us away again.
So we're gonna need to
The
find
thing
a
is, you
temple
might
in
be
time.
right, and I don't want you to be right. So.
No, I don't want to be right either.
Yeah.
I don't want
I
to
don't
be.
think any of us want to be right, but at the same
No.
time, if they deliver a game that blows us away at this level after Tears of the Kingdom, then, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah. I will still play it even if I'm 80 years old. I will wait.
Yeah.
I'll be waiting patiently.
It's gonna make each Zelda that much more of a big moment, right? Like, we waited 6 over 6 years for Tears of the Kingdom. Like, we don't know how long it's going to take the next one. Maybe it's shorter, but there's an upward trajectory of length here between major projects.
I mean,
just
I can
hope we
really
get some 2D
appreciate it.
Zelda.
I can really appreciate it. I mean, I play Call of Duty every year, and Activision just shits one out every holiday, and you're like, okay, you could have spent a little more time on this one, buddy.
Yeah.
So, it's the fact that they want to take their time on it. If they're going to deliver experiences of this caliber, then that's for me, it's welcome.
Nice.
Yeah, I just hope there's going to be some 2D Zelda as well.
Yeah.
That's my love for 2D Zelda.
Grezzo, what are you doing?
Yeah, just
Grezzo.
get those guys on it. They've already shown they're competent enough to do it. Just have some direction from a main Zelda team member.
They did. We got
And-
Triforce Heroes out of it.
I mean, look at how good Metroid Dread is, right? Like, Metroid Dread was made by Mercury Steam. Their prior history wasn't amazing. It was solid, but not amazing. But they had Nintendo executives work with them, and
Supervising.
Metroid Dread was an incredible game, one of the best games of
yeah,
that
It's
year.
all about supervising, just making
Yeah.
sure that it works. And 2D Zelda has been way too underappreciated in my book, at least. Yeah, I love those games so much. Some of my favorite
Same.
Zelda experiences are 2D Zelda games. And I
Honestly,
just hope-
just put me in a trap because I have to mention this. Like, we wouldn't have had Hidemaru Fujibayashi if it wasn't for the Nintendo Capcom team up they did for the handheld Zeldas back
Oracle of Ages.
in the
Seasons,
with
Minish
Ages,
Cap.
Minish Cap, and so
Yeah.
on. Like, we wouldn't have the genius that was the brain behind Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and the story of Skyward Sword, most of all. Like, I think team ups collaborations are great. So if they can find a good balance, say Grezzo does the Hero of Time style games, then you can have someone else do the 2D style games. Then we can have that balance of Zeldas every 2 to 3 years. But at the same time, the Zelda team, so the Zelda team in Kyoto can just focus on delivering the game-changing experiences that they want to. But not every The Legend of Zelda game needs to be that, in my opinion. So,
Yeah. Between remakes and 2D Zeldas, they can tide us over.
Yeah.
So
Just
we hope.
close the gap a little bit between the 3D titles because it's a long wait.
Yeah.
More
I mean,
Zelda.
COVID did delay things for Tears of the Kingdom too, right? So maybe it won't take 7 years, but maybe 5. We'll see.
They've done
I'm just
5
going to
several
say
times.
Europe out. No, I need to get back because
Yep.
it's the National Day of Norway, and I need to celebrate with family and stuff.
Yep.
So
Have
so
a great time.
It's good.
All right, then. Have fun. We'll
See
talk
ya.
soon. Bye
Hey,
bye.
guys.
Same here, actually. It's not the National Day of the Netherlands right now, but I have to go. do some-
Yeah, go enjoy your dinner.
So thank you all so much. Thank you, Nate, for having me, of course. And it was nice talking to everyone. Really awesome.
Yes, it was
And,
great.
Good to see you.
I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Talk
Bye.
later, Don. Bye.
And then there were 5. All right. So we talked a lot about some of the gameplay stuff, some of the world things. Before we dive into potential spoilers, we'll see how much we really even want to talk about it. Because there's going to be a lot of like, I don't know if I really want to go into it. Is this game better than Breath of the Wild? Let's just throw that out there. Like,
Yeah.
is it or is it not? I don't know. Like, people still play Breath of the Wild. Well, at least they were until this game came out.
So
Nate, what did I text you?
Yeah, I know what you texted me.
Yeah, it was some very not nice words about Breath of the Wild, which used to be my favorite game of all time. I was exaggerating, but
I don't know that you
Seriously.
were exaggerating knowing you. I kind of feel like that was the feeling in the moment.
it was
yeah.
the feeling in the moment.
I think a lot of us right now are very subject to recency bias.
Mhm.
So that's definitely going to cloud our judgment a little bit. And when you want to, depending on how you want to look at this, right? Like if you want to look at it from like a historical perspective, like Breath of the Wild, at this point, if I had to guess, probably is going to go down as the more important game. But
Yeah,
if you haven't
absolutely.
played Breath of the Wild, if you go into Tears of the Kingdom, like I think, Tears of the Kingdom is going to be a better game if you look at them objectively with a clean slate. But Breath of the Wild was it was a more of a new experience.
Oh,
Andre's
whoa,
out.
no.
A big statement, and then he hit the eject button.
Either
He
click the
just
wrong
dropped that
button or the
opinion.
power just went out.
He's
I'm
gone.
right, you're wrong. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
goodbye.
I'll pick up where he left off. So I'm also one of the people who has Breath of the Wild as their favorite game ever. I think from what I've played on paper, Tears of the Kingdom is better. I want to finish the game, have some time to sit with it before I make any judgments. But there's so much like time and place, the time that was released, the impact that it had, how ahead of its time it felt. I don't know, even if it is better on paper, it will unseat that game for me, because it's more than just a like yes or no kind of answer in that regard. It's complicated and very personal for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think for me, Breath of the Wild really just captured not only like a moment in time for Nintendo, like that huge shift from the depths and the depression of Wii U to the celebratory excitement and the feeling of launching Switch and having this amazing game launch alongside it, but also just like this new life that was breathed into the franchise that we were all, again, like a little bit worried about, wondering if it was getting us a bit stale, wondering where it was going to go and what would the future of it look like. And I think Breath of the Wild really sort of marked like a new beginning for that, and really shifted our thinking of what a Zelda game could be. So for that reason, I think it's really hard for Tears of the Kingdom to unseat it in that regard. But yeah, I think in terms of like playing the game, like us physically every day, hours in this world, in this game, like it certainly is a bigger world. There's a better story. There are cool dungeons. I mean, there's mechanics that are really fun. There's so much discovery, like we've been talking about. So all of those elements of like the day-to-day gameplay, I think is more fun. But the significance of Breath of the Wild, I think, is going to be hard for a sequel game to top.
Yeah, when the game leaked, a lot of people were saying Breath of the Wild was just a tech demo. You have no idea. I was like, come on. Really? How much are you going to add? Well, the dev team proved me wrong, and I was completely overwhelmed, and I'm still overwhelmed by how much they just added on and transformed the world and the core game and the mechanics and the storytelling aspects, like you were saying. Breath of the Wild has that significance of ushering the series into a new era. Tears of the Kingdom has a significance of improving on that in such a way that I know I didn't expect. I mean, half of the internet was calling Tears of the Kingdom glorified DLC before the game came out.
Oh boy.
And I was not in that camp. I was not in that camp. I thought it's not going to be DLC. It's going to be a great new game. There's going to be a lot of new stuff, but I really just didn't imagine the scope of what that was. And again, it blew me away. So it is a really interesting line of thought to be like, which game is better? And like you were saying, analyzing, when the game came out, the eras of Nintendo and what was going on at the time. It's something to factor in, but I got to say, for me personally, and like Andre says, this may be recency bias, but I feel like, let's see, I'm 60 hours in. I feel like I've had more fun in this 60 hours than I had my first 60 hours of playing Breath of the Wild. Now, if I went back and was able to re-experience Breath of the Wild for the first time, maybe I would say the same thing. I'm having more fun playing this game because I didn't know any better, But I just feel like my brain is more satisfied with this game so far. We'll see what happens when we beat it. And like Kit was saying, when we have time to sit with it and contemplate. But I'm just having too much fun with this game, man. I'm just having too much fun.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes something doesn't have to be better than another. It's just another experience.
Right.
And it's just great,
Well, I'd look at it, in just initially comparing the two, because I can't help it.
Yeah.
My very first playthrough of Breath of the Wild probably went to about 60 hours just to get through the main story and stuff. And I remember vividly, like, I'm loving the exploration. I'm loving all this and that. But then I also remember, hey, like, the Divine Beast bosses, that really wasn't great. That was because like one of my favorite thing about dungeons is the boss fights, and nope, that wasn't really that big of a deal. And then the final boss really wasn't that great either. So cool, like Calamity Ganon's cool, like that was a neat, interesting fight. But by the time I got there, I was obviously outgeared it so much that really wasn't that difficult. And then setting that aside, there were other things I said too, like I kind of didn't want to do all the shrines because half the shrines were combat shrines, and it just was the same thing over and over. And Korok seed, same thing over and over. And in this game, having that experience already known, I thought, oh, this is going to happen again. We have shrines again. We have Korok seeds again. We have, dungeons again. Are they going to be just like Breath of the Wild? And it's an interesting thing where the same amount of hours in, I don't hate the shrines. I actually look forward to finding the next shrine rather than feeling an obligation to do it to increase my health or stamina. I'm like, no, I actually want to go to the next shrine. Like I don't know what it's going to be because I've done such a wide variety of shrines, even like in the same area. They're all so different. I'm like, no, I want to get to the next one because it's super fun. And I wasn't thinking that when I played Breath of the Wild. Not still the biggest fan of the Korok seeds in general.
And some of them are in the same places too.
Yeah, some are in the same places. Some of the puzzles are the same. Like, yeah, they've changed one. Like there was a rock formation one where you used to have to make a circle. Well, this time you have to make like a stop sign. Okay, it's the same thing, guys. Okay, I had to put 2 rocks down instead of 1.
You're rotisserie and Koroks.
Yeah, rotisserie. And that's cool. And I like that they added in things like, oh, get me to my friend. But then you find out that you do that a lot. And it's like, oh, I was hoping when we heard that was a thing from like the preview event that it was going to end up being more and more variety of Korok seed puzzles. And it doesn't really feel like there's a ton of variety. They've added a few new ways, and then they just repeat those new ways and then bring in the old ones. And
I'm gonna play a slight devil's advocate here.
Sure.
But is it possible that because there is it possible that maybe there are more new puzzles than you realize, but because they're new puzzles, you haven't realized that they're Korok
sure.
puzzles?
That is possible. I will also say, after getting really frustrated with stuff, I looked up. Apparently, someone's already done all the Korok seeds, and I just looked up them.
Really?
I looked up a they did a mishmash video of every single seed, and I only watched it for like 5 minutes to realize, oh, yeah, it is what I think. Like it's a lot of repetitive stuff, and I think that's what in Breath of the Wild I kind of gave it a pass because I said, look, Nintendo doesn't make games like this. They just don't. The Zelda team's never made a game like this. And everything else surrounding the things I wasn't a big fan of was so incredible to me that it was kind of like, I'm good. Like Zelda's never like, I'm good. There's things I don't like about all the Zelda games, but there's not things that I love as like I didn't think, as an example, like dungeon bosses have been my favorite thing that I could say, oh, Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time when I feel like it has the worst bosses in the game and like the whole franchise. And yet I didn't realize how much I was going to love that freedom of exploration because Zelda hasn't given me that since like Zelda 2. Like it's been forever since we've had that level of just go anywhere, do things any order you want. I know Link to the Past tried it a little bit. Link Between Worlds tried to bring it back as well, but it really wasn't the same. Because there still were places you couldn't do and things you couldn't access right away. I do think that Tears of the Kingdom does a much better job adding that variety in. Even though the Korok seeds aren't my favorite, I kind of wish there was just if I could give them any advice, because there's so much content in Tears of the Kingdom that we don't need. Like I kind of feel like in Breath of the Wild, Korok seeds were to help give you something to discover while you're out doing things, because there'll be areas that have nothing going on, and then here's a Korok seed puzzle. I think in this game there's so much content they didn't really need that. So what they should have did instead is you can have Korok seed puzzles, but have there be significantly less, and each one's unique, or each one's like a unique quest, and that every time you complete one of those, you get an expansion to your inventory instead of collecting the same way that we did in Breath of the Wild. So there'd be less of them, they'd be more unique, and it'd start to become fun. Like I'm having fun searching out the guy with the sign because I got to solve the sign now a different way every single time. And I know that might eventually get repetitive to me. I don't know. I've already done it like 20 times. I don't even know how many more times I have to do it.
It's fun to
But-
think of different ways to do it. I'll tell
Yeah.
you this: the Hestu dance is
Oh,
far improved.
the new
over
one.
Breath of the
The
Wild.
new one's great.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. I let it play every time. Every
Yeah,
time.
The
I
Korok
skipped a lot in
seeds.
Breath of the Wild.
The Korok seeds, though, I agree with you, Nate, because a lot of the times in Breath of the Wild, you'd just be going through an open area with not much to do, and there's a Korok seed puzzle. Okay. But now in Tears of the Kingdom, I'm trying to do something else. I'm fighting a batch of enemies. I'm trying to do this quest. I'm trying to get to this landmark that's right over there. Or I'm exploring a glyph or whatever it is. Then, okay, here's a Korok. Yep. All right. let me stop and do that quick. I'm
Still
already
lifting
doing
every
something
rock
else.
because they're under rocks.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of different, more important stuff, more engaging stuff that I'm trying to do, and there's a Korok. There's another.
I will
Korok.
say it was
I need
neat.
help reaching my friend. No, into the depths.
It was neat when I saw a wall that I needed to break down, right? And in Breath of the Wild, you would just have bombs. I was like, I don't want to waste my bombs. I'm just gonna make a hammer quick. And so I took a rock and I fused it to my hammer, and out popped a Korok seed. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot you guys hide under rocks too.
Mhm.
So if I can fuse those rocks and have you pop out at the same time, it's kind of neat. But,
So whether it is or isn't better than Breath of the Wild, everybody will have their different take on that. I think it's such an incredible achievement that we need to recognize, like that we're even having
that conversation.
Yeah,
because I think like this game did have some things going against it as far as that comparison. I mean, sequels are hard in general. They put so much creative effort and energy into that first game. You wonder, like, what else can they squeeze out of it? We also had with Breath of the Wild the benefit of playing it on this incredible new piece of hardware, which colored our experience with that game. And again, made it such like an emotional, memorable moment for us. So going into this game, like my feeling was this game will be incredible, but there may be some things that don't give you that same feeling. So I think for it to have delivered on that and for it to have a 96 Metacritic and for us to be talking about this is amazing.
I'll also add on OpenCritic, it's technically the highest rated game of all time.
Yeah. There's certain outlets OpenCritic doesn't think are big enough that Metacritic.
Forget the console wars. We got the Metacritic OpenCritic wars now.
I mean, that's been a debate. That's been a debate for a while.
According to OpenCritic, my game is better.
The fact that Metacritic and OpenCritic are disagreeing with each other on whether or not Tears of the Kingdom is the best game of all time or slightly below the best game of all time is also a great achievement. So
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it is, and probably one of the differences between the sites. Metacritic weights their reviews, how they do the score. Certain outlets way more into it. They won't tell us the exact algorithm for it, but that is something they have stated on their TOS on their website. OpenCritic just says, here's the reviews, here's the average. But they don't tell us their criteria for what they count for who they'll review. Like as an example, the outlet that gave it a 6 out of 10 is not on their review list, but is on Metacritic's list.
Good riddance.
Now I tried figuring this out a while. I think they base it on traffic. Like you have to be at a certain traffic threshold for them to consider you to be a major review outlet. And I don't know that website is at that traffic. I looked it up. They're a pretty low traffic. They get less views than my videos get in like a month, in a day. Like videos I put in a day, they get less views than that in a month. So I don't really know. What I do know is it is incredible that we're talking about Tears of the Kingdom in the light of, is this now the greatest game or the greatest Zelda game of all time? After we just came off what many people consider to be the greatest or one of the greatest, to have that happen back to back, like that hasn't happened really in Zelda, where it's like back to back brand new Zelda games. And we're talking like, split hairs. Both of them are absolutely epic game of the year, games like this, especially because Zelda's had lulls in releases. Like they've had games come out that, okay, you had Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, pretty high quality. Yeah, you had Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, but then we had some of the handheld games come out in between that maybe weren't necessarily viewed in the highest light. And then even the last console Zelda game, I mean, yeah, it's still got like a 92, 93 rating, but that's not game of the year.
It didn't translate to sales. If you're talking about
Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
That had a lot working
highly rated.
The new system announced before it even comes out.
Yeah, it might have been highly rated, but at the same time, the sales didn't translate, and also fan reception really didn't translate around.
Skyward Sword was rated low relative to Zelda.
Yeah, relative for Zelda games.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, but I feel that from Wind Waker was still like a highly reviewed game, and I think Twilight Princess. I gotta double check this. I'm not 100% on this, but I think Twilight Princess was rated a little bit lower overall. and then Skyward Sword was more noticeably lower for sure. So, but just even if Twilight Princess wasn't lower, just the fact that they had some level of inconsistency, and that Breath of the Wild and now Tears of the Kingdom back to back are rated higher with a larger sample size.
The original Wind Waker was a 96, so
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Twilight Princess was a 95.
Yeah, there's a lot of the series has always scored very consistently in those mid 90s, but there's a lot like after time passes, people are like, that wasn't as good as I thought. Or like there are people who've reviewed those games and have said, like, yeah, in hindsight, I would have scored that something quite a bit
caught
lower.
up
Funny
in the
how that
copium of
happens.
the moment.
Yeah, like
It's
now
so
Breath of the Wild
interesting
has that.
There is so much like clout, with just having a title that says The Legend of Zelda in it for reviews. And I do think, Andres, you said it really well. We are very much human beings that are very subject to recency bias. And also, like, nowadays, even more than ever, it's like if everybody loves something, it's really hard to be the person that doesn't like it. And this one in particular, I think the people that were big voices in giving it 10 out of 10s or whatever, I think it'd be really hard if you were a reviewer and you're like, I'm raising my hand because I don't like this one thing, or I don't like the. People would like basically Clorox eat you.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we do have this like really weird phenomenon with these ridiculous review scores, and then years later, people are like, "Well, I wanted to say this like 10 years ago, but I was too scared." But now that I've played this game, all the way through or whatever, like this is how I actually felt. So I do think that's part of this experience and discussion as well. As we are all playing this game, I think it's going to kind of have like, likes and dislikes and things that are going to be highs for us and lows for us, like in like any experience.
Yeah, that's a great point.
As far as having Zelda,
has turned a lot of people off. Yeah, all I was just going to add is just like, like you look at Tears of the Kingdom, we were kind of talking about earlier, like Ultra Hand, for some people, it's almost like a love it or hate it thing. There is a learning curve to that, and for some people, it may be too much of a learning curve to really fully enjoy the game.
Yeah, I think having, like you were saying, having the Legend of Zelda attached to a title, it definitely carries some weight. I mean, I think back, I was someone that really enjoyed Triforce Heroes, which we referenced earlier. I really enjoyed that game. A lot of people
Did you have
didn't.
friends?
I played with you, Nate.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm aware. I'm pretty sure your experience was a bit tainted by having a friend.
Yeah. So I did have people to play with because we were both at Zelda Informer at the time, and the whole staff was playing it. But so yeah, that was one of the reasons why I enjoyed it. But if that game released and it was called something entirely different and wasn't Zelda at all, I probably wouldn't have given that game a second look. Tears of the Kingdom, however, if there was no Zelda attached to it, I would still, oh, what's this game? That's cool. If it was, completely reskinned and had nothing to do with Zelda, I would still hop in and play it and think it's a great game. So I think the fact that I would still hop in and play it and think it's a great game, and it's Zelda and a Zelda sequel, that definitely carries some weight, and I think can also throw a little bit of bias in there on the reviewer's part when it has that Zelda or Mario or Metroid title attached to it.
What's interesting too? So it sold 10 million plus. We don't know the exact figure in 3 days, and it's the first game from Nintendo to experiment with a $70 price point. Clearly, got away with it. I think they always knew they would, because it's too popular of a franchise to hurt the sales significantly in any meaningful way. I find it interesting because there's been a lot of discussion around that price point on what they're doing. There's what Nintendo said, which people just don't want to believe what they said. Oh, we base our price points on individual games and yada yada yada, and we're just we just feel like this is a game that's worth $70, so that's what we're going to price it at. And there's some people that play the game now and they go, oh yeah, look how much there's more, look how much bigger this is than Breath of the Wild. Clearly it's worth that extra $10. But it gets into that whole thing where there's also that other people don't think it's worth $10 because to them that represents next generation. That represents PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series and 4K and pretty graphics. And I think it's interesting looking at the sales numbers and the price point. Like, do we think there's anything with this where Nintendo might do $70 more often with the IPs they know are going to sell no matter what they price it at? Like the next 3D Mario game. Maybe it's not bigger than Odyssey necessarily, but they can get away with $70.
Yeah, it's
100%. They're going to resell you this game as a deluxe version at full price. They're going to price games that they know is strong IP higher. Game development gets more expensive, as time goes on. Making these games are more expensive. Nintendo is a business at the end of the day. They have to sell these games. So honestly, I don't think they care at all about any sort of fan dissent or negativity. They know this game is going to sell regardless of what people are complaining about. So 100% they're going to keep doing this.
I mean, from a business perspective, I probably would have marked it as 70 as well.
And I'm sitting here thinking, looking at the sales of $70 games on the other platforms, is this the most successful launched $70 game of this generation? Because other games have not been doing well at that price point on the other platforms.
That's something to research, but I feel like you might.
God of War is up there.
What was
I know
God of
War
War?
did good. Yeah, that one did good. But
I mean, it's pretty amazing we've been at $60 for this long. Like looking at how the escalation of budgets, specifically on PlayStation and Xbox, has been, and they can try and find ways to make it up with DLC or other stuff. But at some point, the economics of it don't work. So I think it's good when we have a bigger range on. I'm fine with the $70 games if it deserves it. I also think there's a lot of other games that maybe should be a little bit under $60, and they're just like, oh, well, that's the standard. It's going to be $60. You might actually have a better result if you priced it a little bit lower.
Yeah, it's crazy to me Mario sports titles and mainline Mario are the same price. That makes no sense. They're not. There's so stratospheres of different types of games. Why
Switch Sports $60?
It makes no sense. That's a $40 title max.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, Wii Sports sold so well. It's like, yeah, it was bundled with every Wii. Like,
like I'm okay with Prime Remaster being $40. I mean, obviously it's cheaper, but like that game clearly had work done into it visually, and yet they sell it for $40. And to your point, we'll get like a Mario Sports title for $60. Like that there seems like a little bit of a disconnect there. Maybe Prime Remaster, because it's a remaster with no actual significant new content, should be $40. But then by extension, other remasters and things of that nature should maybe also be $40, $50.
And I thought Nintendo would use a greater price range. Like maybe it was just because the Wii U wasn't selling well, but they felt like they experimented more back then. Like $50 for Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, $40 for Captain Toad. And then, Tropical Freeze is brought to Switch. Oh, we're just going 60 because that's what we charge.
So crazy.
It's like, and I understand the Switch is successful and they're a business and they're going to price it because we got a successful platform. It's going to sell at 60, so we're going to sell it at 60. I just introducing the $70 price range. I always felt like, okay, this is just the next Mario game 70. Probably won't be long before Pokemon games start charging 70. Next Animal Crossing clearly going to be 70. And I'm okay with like $10 isn't going to make me not play it. And people always remind me, and it's fair, video games have been more expensive in the rest of the world this entire time. We've been very fortunate in the United States to actually be on the cheapest end of like the scale of what video games cost. And the $70 price increase hasn't necessarily increased the price of the game in other regions. So some of it is just kind of getting games up to where they cost for everyone else, which I mean, nobody wants to pay what they pay in Brazil, especially Australia. They pay a lot there too.
It's like a luxury tax.
Almost. Yeah. Well, there's some governmental things involved with some of that, but I know in Australia there's some stuff where they just don't like video games. The government hates them for some. They're the bane of everyone's evil out there for some reason. But it's interesting just thinking about, Tears of the Kingdom clearly showed $70, no problem. Like we're gonna just break records. It is what it is. And now, I mean, I feel like this is complete confidence for them now. We're just going to charge 70 for every big game.
Yeah. Not every big game.
I hope they do a bigger well, it depends on what you call big, too.
Right. So, like, I think Prime 4 will have the budget of a big game, like a Mario or a Zelda or close to it. But I don't think they're going to sell that for $70. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's just kind of like they know that series needs to sell well, right? So, like, I feel like they're, in terms of like the Xenoblades, the Fire Emblems, the Metroids. I don't see them going for $70 for those games, just because
I think it'd
at
be
least
smart for them not to.
at least at first. If $70 becomes like the staple, then it's expected, right? But like, for example, what if Tears of the Kingdom came out for 60, and then what if the rumors are true and Prime 4 comes out this holiday for 70? That would have been a disaster, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it depends on when and how.
Yeah. Maybe
normalized
it'll be a
this is.
slower rollout, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I do think like the next 3D Mario, sure. But with the 2D Mario, do they dare charge 70?
At some point, you'll learn what the limit is the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point there'll be a backlash for it if it's like not.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the next sports game. They say, oh, we're going to charge 70 for that, and then all of a sudden it doesn't even crack 1 million in sales, and you're like, oh, what did we do wrong? Oh, nothing. The game reviewed well. Just nobody wants to pay that for that experience.
Yeah. Shout outs to the voucher program though. $100
Yeah.
for
I almost feel like when they brought it back in the US, that was their combat to, hey, people are going to be mad. That's okay. We brought the vouchers back. Even though other territories never got rid of them in the first place.
Yeah. I got
And
We're
these are
good
gold
guys
points.
that we brought them back.
I had a
Nice.
lot of gold points saved up. I saved like $26 on
There you
Tears
go.
of the Kingdom, which is pretty good, I thought. So
Yeah.
there's some little
I had,
ways for you
I had
to save a little
$18
bit.
in gold points. I bought the voucher, so I got Pikmin 4 and Tears of the Kingdom. So like I actually
Nice.
saved quite a bit of money.
Yeah, so you're all good. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
until I bought the collector's edition and
Yeah. I got Tears of the Kingdom with the voucher, but I did get the collector's edition, so there's a hole in my wallet. But also with the gold points, I found Mega Man 11 on sale for like $9 or something, and I had enough points to grab that from the points I redeemed by buying games
It's
with the voucher.
10%, right? 10% you get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so you kind of look at it as like a 10% discount, then plus a voucher program. Like there's some significant savings there.
It's a good little deal. You know, and other platforms don't have the voucher program. So, but they also have other things too, like games with gold and you know, stuff where they're
Xbox
getting bigger.
Game Pass is incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
Game
that
Pass.
is the best.
Yeah.
Game Pass.
I don't know how they're
That
making
made
any
me
money,
switch
but
to
it's the
Xbox from PlayStation.
Damn.
I went from PS4 to Xbox Series X because of Game Pass.
There
I
you
don't
go.
know why.
Makes
Proof Game Pass changed at least one customer's mind.
Yeah, it changed.
Game Pass.
So the last part that we were going to talk about is a little bit on story, and I don't really want to go too deep. So this is like spoiler territory. I haven't completed the story. I don't know if any of us have completed the story, which is totally
Darren?
fine.
No.
There's so much more to the story.
I haven't. I have so many hours invested, but I have purposefully kind of strayed away from unlocking a lot of the story. I'm kind of saving it.
Yeah, you get some at the end of the dungeons, of course, but
Yeah.
But yeah. So like obviously all of us know the very beginning. You know, that's first thing you have to do. First off, how about that opening to the game? Like I've never seen a Zelda game open this way, or any game really open this way.
Incredible.
Story wise, yeah, I
Just
think
story-wise, even like
beginning.
hey, you're fully powered up from the last game. Like
That was nice. I like the fact that you didn't just start at 3 hearts with no explanation. I really like that.
For the first time, he didn't wake up, which I was like, what, why is he sleeping or something? I was so shocked that he was just out and about.
And then they slip it in there a little bit.
They do. I was glad they did, because I was like, I can't
Gotta
start
have
a
the
Zelda
reference.
game without Link not waking up. Yeah, it's tradition. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit in a video that Kit and I made over the weekend, over last weekend, and also just like the Nintendo Presents, the black screen, tiny font. We're like, oh,
epic.
Yeah,
epic,
it's so
classy,
simple,
confident.
but it's like we
Amazing.
know what we're doing. You don't you don't understand what you're stepping into right now.
Exactly. They were so confident. I was like, wow, this is like so unlike Nintendo. Usually they're very humble, very like, oh, just let the game speak for itself.
It's
we won't
just
show
like
off.
they knew. Oh, all this
They were
discourse.
like,
all
no,
this-
we're
not
going to
worried.
be out there
Here it
with this
is.
like you are going to love this
Yep.
mentality, which
Criticism
I
over
thought was
lack of
very nice.
marketing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. As soon as you turn it on, you're good.
Yeah,
It's
I
interesting
thought-
that the opening area they cut out something that was in the first trailer, and you're like walking with that elephant thing.
Mhm.
And that's
did
just
notice
not
that.
even there.
Yeah,
That
I
happens, but
I mean, yeah, it could just be that they cut it because the game's been developed for years at this point. But like, maybe all that's underground. We just haven't seen it yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't completed the story, so who the heck knows? Maybe there is something late game where
I'm at least assuming that we can somehow get back to that area that we explored before, like, because there's some stuff that's hidden.
so
that
the
you can
entrance is
break.
still there to get in. I don't know. If you do the
Like the
initial
mural
quest-
section. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like we should be able to get back to that spot.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we found out where they entered. When you get down to the land and you do the quest to get the paraglider, and you're doing the initial stuff where you have to go out and talk to the guard out on the gate or whatever. There's a person on the side that if you talk to him, he says, "This is the entrance that you guys went through to get down there." But I can't let you in right now. Now,
Yeah.
maybe they'll eventually let us back in. I haven't been able to get back in yet, but there might be a certain amount of story progression you need to get before they. So there is an entrance, and I'm sure someone's already glitched through it and went down there anyways. But I'm
If it's
very
what
curious
I
that they
think
let
you're
us go back down
talking
there.
about. If it's what I think you're talking about, I did go in there.
Yeah.
I remember that quest. You have to go in the Hyrule Castle, and then there's the guard at that entrance, and he's like, "I can't let you in here unless so and so tells me it's okay."
Yeah.
And then I came back after I did that quest like a couple of days later, and I was able to go in there. And if you haven't been in there, go in there because there's some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe that's exactly what I'm gonna do when this podcast ends. Is just a little mosey on in.
You're gonna find some cool stuff that'll help you.
But yeah, it's so it's hard to talk a lot about the story without getting too spoilery. But I think what's really cool is, they did this thing where they brought in the imprisoning war, like such a really cool event in Zelda history back from like A Link to the Past that never really got fleshed out or detailed that much. Just this is a war that happened, and
They mentioned it multiple times.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal. Like the throughout the story so far, it's a very, very big deal. The imprisoning war. And
I refresh on my Zelda lore. As soon as I mentioned it, I like paused the game. I was like, wait a second. Google imprisoning war, read up on that. I was like, what does this mean for it? Whoa. Like
Yeah. What's interesting though is that I haven't seen everything yet. I've only seen small bits, but I've also read comments, and there's discussion on if there's a retcon, if this is the same continuity, which seems to happen every time there's a new Zelda. So
this one is very heavy. The events that happen through, because I think we said we cut off at the first 6 memories. The events that happen through those 6 memories, like I don't, unless there's something crazy that happens towards the end, I don't know how it isn't either a retcon or just Breath of the Wild rebooted the series and they never told us.
I mean, the story surrounding Ganondorf specifically.
The story surrounding Ganondorf makes no sense for his existence in any other game.
Yeah, no.
Basically. I don't know the full details. I haven't seen all 6 memories. What's it's minor criticism, but like depending on how you explore, you'll see some of the later memories, and there's some
I don't like
really.
That.
I
have like memory 12 unlocked, and I'm really mad that I didn't go in order.
I wish they just kind of like I like the layout of finding them. Like, I think they actually improved on it because they're pretty obvious to find now, right? Like in Breath of the Wild, they were really hard to find, and while it's cool for challenge for everyone, that means that not everyone's going to get to see a whole story without looking it up on YouTube. But I just feel like it would have been better if like maybe regardless of which one you find, it just tells you the story in sequential order. Like I think that would have been better.
Yeah, and the thing is, I see why they didn't do that because they matched it up with what the glyph is, and
the
sometimes it's
glyph
area
and the story
specific,
matchup,
which I understand. But I think it's more important that we get the story in a more cohesive manner in order, rather than
I think what they should have did.
So we're going to give you this memory.
I think what they should have did is only have the glyphs appear if you've done the prior one in the story. Like, don't even have them appear on the world without the prior one. So they're like the order they go in, like 1 through 18 or whatever it is, that you do the first glyph and then the second one appears. You don't know what appeared, by the way. Like it'll just be something new. You go revisit an area and you're like, oh, when did this get here? Yeah. This wasn't here last time I was here. And then all of a sudden there's your second one, and it can kind of force the order because I do know. Yeah, the story they give you lines up with the glyph, and that is really neat. And it would be weird if it didn't line up with the glyph, because then what's the point of the glyphs?
Right.
Um,
They really, I mean, I appreciate they tried to improve on how they deliver the
how
story
to
to you
find
with
them.
that connection and on how to find them and corresponding to the glyph. But I just wish that you would get it in order, because like you, I have found a memory that's way further in the story than I have progressed so far.
Didn't
And
really want to know that right
yeah, I
now.
didn't really want to know that
Thanks.
right then, and I'm not going to give any details. I'm not going to
Thanks.
spoil any story, but it's. I sat there, I was like, oh, okay, come on, really? Now, I mean,
Yeah. So it was brought up in the comments. People saying they do tell you the order. Impa in particular kind of tells you where to go. That's true. But the thing is, if you're just out doing whatever the hell you want, like if you don't do that first one with Impa and you're just out and you find another one and you just happen upon it and there you go. Like but that's part of the freedom of the game. Like it's sort of how maybe that's something to think about in the future too. Like that was the one thing about the open world Zelda games is they went with this nonlinear story and it made it so you discover aspects of it, whenever you discover it, not really knowing the order. That was true in Breath of the Wild as well. It's just Breath of the Wild's backstory. It didn't really matter as much which memory you got first because it all just kind of connected together and each told their own individual little piece of the pie and didn't really like hurt. Like I'm trying to think on the Breath of the Wild memories after I just did them recently. Like there's very few of them that hurt the other memories. Like you can have memory 2 and memory 5, but they don't really hurt each other, so it didn't really matter which order you got them in.
this story is so meaty that you don't want it out of order. It really.
Well, maybe
does
that's something
matter.
they can improve upon in the future. I don't know how they improve upon it. Try to create a more linear path to discovering a story in an open world game.
Well, I think it doesn't really matter where you put them. Just okay, this is the first one you found. It doesn't matter if it's in this corner or the other corner. It's going to play the first memory, and then you go and find the spot to unlock another memory. It doesn't matter where it is on the map. It'll give it to you in order. What's that?
But they didn't do that. It's a nice dream.
But they didn't do that. Yeah. I would instead they wanted to do with here's this thing that corresponds to the memory, which I get it, but I don't think it's the greatest system they could have made.
Yeah, like Kit and Krista, what do you guys would you have done anything different, or do you really like the way they said about this?
I've been avoiding all the story content in the game. Okay, so I'm like, I have nothing to contribute to this conversation.
Yeah, so true. I have not done any story stuff because I just don't want to.
Sure.
I want to consume that in a way that makes sense for me, and I think the story is so important to me. And that was my big complaint about Breath of the Wild is that the story was like really lacking, and I was disappointed at the end, just like you, with that final boss fight. I'm like, this is lame. This is a lame ending to this epic adventure that I'm supposed to be on. So when I heard and saw that there was going to be a lot more story and it's going to be a lot more cinematic for Tears of the Kingdom, I got really excited about that. So I've been trying to avoid all the spoilers and just like taking my time. That's why I haven't like really advanced the main quest or anything like that. Because I really want to like savor and enjoy those moments. It's so rare that we have story in a Zelda game that actually is good because the development team just they don't think about it. Like you ask them questions about the timeline, they're like, oh, we don't think about that. We just thought about like how cool is this fuse ability. So they're not like that's not like an important thing for them. But I think that maybe has shifted a little bit for this game. So so I'm just trying to like savor that while we have it.
Yeah, and
I would recommend. I haven't done this, but I'm gonna try and do it. It might be a little dangerous. But I'm going to try, and someone has to have a list or is compiling a list of locations of the story points when you unlock the memories. Someone has to have or is compiling a list of where those are in order from one to the last one.
There is a list out there. So after I found one that I was way ahead of where I was in the story and I did not like having that one, I immediately went to Google and I was like, okay, where is the order? I don't necessarily want to know where they are. Just what is the order so I recognize what the next one I want to do is. So if it's this one, I don't want to do that one. If I find this glyph,
I'll mark it and come back to it later.
I'll mark it. I'll come back to it when it's time to do that one. And that, I because of how the story's handled, I wish that they would have just had something like that in the game. And I know, by the way, guys, I know Impa tells you what the next one is you should do and a vague location to go to. I understand that.
Yeah,
But it's very much like if you weren't paying attention in that moment and there's so much going on, it's not really written down on the quest log what the next one is to go to. You just kind of have to remember.
right.
And that to me is a little bit of a flaw in in just how to ingest the story, because I can tell you right now, after experiencing one out of order and doing, actually, I haven't even found memory 1. I don't even know where the heck memory 1 is.
I haven't either.
I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know where the heck memory 1 is at. So I am already out of order technically. So I don't know what the very first thing is, but it's interesting to me because I find it so enjoyable going through the way that they want you to go through it, like the way the story was put together in chronological order. That this is one of the big negatives of the game is when you discover the story and having it happen out of order. If you do it that way, it's kind of,
so that list is definitely going to be something that I'm going to look
a meaty story. It can't be told this way. It can't be out of order.
Yeah. So you kind of have to do the work that Nintendo didn't choose to do and look up that list, and that's what I'm going to try and do, and then try to salvage, because I've already unlocked some memories, so I'm going to try and salvage the story from what I've already seen. Yeah.
Well, I guess technically I could go revisit the Lost Temple. Won't get into what happens there, guys. I don't want to spoil the part of the story for you, but there's a thing in there that I should have took a picture of that might have helped a little bit too. But
I don't even know what you're talking about. So
well, that's the thing. Like it's part of the main quest, but only if you actually follow the main quest, and a lot of people don't really follow.
Yeah, I have not
the main quest.
I'm not gonna really speak to spoilers, one, because I don't know most of them, but also two, I don't want to.
Yeah, right.
But I'll say that I really appreciate how there are multiple main quest lines.
Yes.
So as you explore the world, sometimes you naturally fall into a main quest line without even realizing it. I did. And it's just kind of cool because there's like several plot threads that are occurring simultaneously. And there's just, I mean, basically it's just, there's more meat to this story. There's more depth to the story. And even like the tangential things, like just interacting with the different NPCs and seeing how they experience the upheaval. Like there's a lot more meat to this. And it makes the world a lot more fun.
Yeah, there's what you're going through, and then there's what Zelda's going through. And it's really cool that it's like all happening at once. And that there is all those main quests. That is a big improvement over the first game, I feel. Having a lot more main quests, you know?
Until we just started talking about the main quest line, we were really focusing on the past and the lore that the game presents you, which we've been talking about as being very meaty. But now we're getting into more of the concurrent story that is also very meaty. You have multiple main quest lines going on at the same time. You can kind of fall into them without knowing about it. I know I have. So to have both of those going on at the same time, again, is just a testament to how engaging this game is.
Yeah, because it wasn't like Breath of the Wild. It was, here's your first main quest. Defeat Ganon. You just have it right away. Cool. By the way, your other main quest, go to Kakariko and then find some memories. Okay, that was like it. That was your main quest. Eventually, go do the Divine Beast and stuff. But it's crazy. Like my main quest log, I think has 6 active main different lines of the main quest going on.
I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, who knows? I haven't even explored half the map. Let's just. I mean, I'm just at half of Hyrule. Let's not even get into the depths in the sky. Okay, like I've probably seen 5% of the game at this point. I don't even know,
man. Just wait.
Like I just discovered a story element that's relevant to the depths, and I'm like, oh, so the depths do have a purpose. Oh, well, that's a thing. Crap, because I really wasn't sure I was going to ever fully explore the depths, and now I kind of have to unless I get lucky. Oh boy, when I get lucky, it means resist the urge to Google exactly where to go, which hole to drop down. Because it's out there. The walkthroughs exist.
You can't be doing that.
No. So, I guess we can get to wrapping this up. Krista, what's your favorite aspect of Tears of the Kingdom right now?
I think it's just the exploration, and I'm so excited about the sky and the underground and just having this huge world to explore. I always get a little bit sad. I'm like, oh no, I'm already done, almost done with unlocking the map. Does that mean, there's going to be less things to discover? But that's absolutely not the case with this game. It's massive, and there's so many surprises around every corner. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to taking my time and really savoring those moments in the game, and really, playing it the way I want to play it and not get sucked into what everyone else is doing. And it feels really good.
Awesome. How about you, Kit?
Yeah, it's very similar, where it's just the world and exploring it. And, there's so many things that you can stop to admire, whether it's something that, you can do gameplay wise, or whether it's just something that's interesting to look at. A lot of times I'm like, wow, somebody had to manually build every inch of this world. And how do you do that in a way that approximates real life, but is somehow more than that? So that just continues to be a huge marvel for me. And like Krista, I really love the Sky Islands, and that's a whole other layer to explore. And yes. I've spent so little underground. I think when I finally dig my teeth into that, that'll just be another fun thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Darren, what's your favorite aspect of the game so far?
So I talked about it a little bit earlier with just having so much meat in all three layers of the world, the distractions, and the overwhelming sense of just content that you get to enjoy. We dug through that pretty deep. So I guess I will say I am really enjoying about this Zelda game that hasn't really been in previous Zelda games. It's just the connection to the first one. A lot of people remember who you are, reference past events, etc. And in past Zelda games, Zelda games reference other Zelda games. We've had sequels, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess had Ocarina of Time connections and callbacks and whatnot, but not in this significant of a way before, and I really appreciate that. It's kind of like when you beat a Zelda game and there's no Apple or story after the story. There's a new game plus, but there's no all right, you beat the boss, but now you're just transported back to right before you beat the boss. And that kind of feeling of, oh, really? I can't experience the world after and talk to the people and whatnot. Well, I kind of get the same feeling with direct sequels to games when they kind of ignore what happened in the last game. Yeah, this is a sequel, but we're not
place it to only new players.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, so I really like that they have that connection in Tears of the Kingdom to Breath of the Wild with the people and the references and whatnot. It really connects the two, and it makes me feel like I really am playing an ongoing story in a series of events. So I really do enjoy that.
Plus, for new players, they did add in those profiles, and they make it very obvious when the profiles for characters pop up. And that's really nice because if a new player wants to know a bit more about why this character is treating Link a certain way, just read it. It's right there. They put it right in the character profile.
It's a welcome addition for sure, because my girlfriend has been watching me play off and on, and she, she's liking what she's seeing, but she hasn't played Breath of the Wild, so I'm hesitant to recommend this game. I kind of want her to play Breath of the Wild first, but we'll see, because those character profiles do really
maybe have her go in the opposite direction. I'm curious, people that play Tears of the Kingdom first, then go back to Breath of the Wild for the first time, how they're actually going to feel going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, that would be really, really interesting. She's playing Phoenix Immortals Rising right now. I think so. Okay. Immortals Phoenix Rising right now, because she saw me playing this one, and she actually had that game a while back but never played it, and she's like, well, I want to play a game like that. And so she started playing it, and I was like, well, I guess it's it's an open world.
It
RPG,
works.
So
it's heavily inspired. Yeah. Andres, what was your favorite aspect of the game so far?
Well, as I said earlier, there are several things that I can't really just pick just one, but I'll tell you another random one. It's just the bosses. I mean that across the board. I haven't seen all the bosses yet, but from the ones I've seen, they're bigger. There's a larger scale to them. The music for the boss fights, the actual boss fight themes, are really good. I think they are more varied and bombastic, I'll even say, to some extent, than Breath of the Wild. And just the overall challenge, like I mentioned the Gleeoks earlier, they are so challenging. And for me, it's exciting because I love the challenge, and I know that there's gonna be a pretty good reward. And I've just found overall with all the enemies that there's a pretty good reward for fighting them, and it's not like how in Breath of the Wild, it's like, especially in Master Mode, like when you fight an enemy, it's like, oh man, is it even worth fighting this? But in Tears of the Kingdom, when you fight something, you get something that you can make usually a better weapon with, or a comparable weapon with, or even two. So I never really find myself running out of resources. I'm just kind of continually building and building upon it. So it just kind of encourages me to keep fighting, and it's fun. I love it a lot.
Yeah, the only reason I don't run out of resources is because I keep using my amiibo every day. I'm one of those people that, hey, look, this is a resource heavy. Yeah, this is resource heavy. We got to drop the amiibos. Everyone I got, I need all my resources. As an example, I never find wanting for arrows. I'm always like stocked with 500 arrows. I'm good. Thanks, amiibos, by the way, for
even
that.
Without using amiibos, I have 300 arrows.
Yeah, that's good.
Every time I find a box,
rupees.
break it.
I refuse to sell things. I have no rupees because I keep using everything I have. So I'm like, what am I gonna sell? I guess I got some extra bokoblin teeth I could get rid of for like 200 rupees for 50. Like, no, I'm keeping all my expensive stuff because they do the coolest things. Like firing rubies, man. Those are such an. I get it. I don't need it, but it's fun, so I'm gonna keep it. So yeah, I'm always the rupees is the one thing I'm really low on all the time. But I will say one aspect that wasn't touched upon that I have really found myself enjoying the more and more I play. Like the exploration's awesome, and clearly, I'm now in. That's just what I love the most now. Forget. Look, they can never give me dungeons again. If you give me this level of exploration, and I'm golden. By the way, people get mad. Keep the dungeons in for the people that get mad.
I'm not mad.
The exploration is so good. But honestly, one of the gripes that I never really had with Breath of the Wild, but other people had, is completely rectified, and enemy variety. Enemy variety. There are so many different types of enemies in this game everywhere in every region, the underworld, the sky, the main Hyrule, in the caves. There is more enemy variety, I believe, in this game than any other prior Zelda game, and it's not even close. I was trying to do an enemy count, and then the moment that I got past like 30 different enemies, I'm like, okay, well, we are flying. And even like some of the ones that are repetitive, like, yeah, there are multiple types of bokoblins. Instead of them just being different colors that have the same AI and like are just bigger hit sponges, which is what it was in like Breath of the Wild. No, they actually have armor and actually will do different attacks and be aggressive towards you in different ways. And it's something I've started noticing more and more and more the deeper I get in, is just not just the enemy variety, but when you are facing the harder versions of those enemies, that they're even doing different things to throw you off a little bit. I mean, yeah, Gleeoks are what they are. I still can't. I just get wrecked. I've faced off against two different ones. It's just nope. It's just a big nope at the moment. I'm sure there's some clever trick way to do it. I don't want the trick way. I don't want the crouch in the corner Zelda 2 to beat Dark Link trick. Okay, like. Look, that's the cheap way. You're not actually fighting. You're just admitting you can't beat him. And that's what I feel like. I saw there was a video someone put up of the easiest way to be. And like, I just watched 2 seconds of it. And I'm like, oh, you are being so cheap right now. That is not even fun. You're not even fighting the damn thing. Yeah. Get out of here with that cheap trick nonsense. You just don't want to get good. Which, by the way, there's nothing wrong if you want to use those methods. It's fine. If that's the only way you can take out Dark Link, the only way you can take out Gleeoks, it's fine. If that's all you can do, that's okay. You enjoy the game the way you enjoy it. I know many people that would have never beat Zelda 2 if they didn't crouch in the corner on Dark Link. I'm well aware. Cheap tricks are part of gaming, so it's fine. But I'm just like, but you're not fighting. I want to fight the thing. Just facing the Gleeok head on, even when you figure out some of the patterns, even then you got to be like perfect, like all the time. It's not like Lionel where you can mess up a little bit, because what happened? Well, even if Lionel's you'd mess up and die, you would get abilities later that would give you forgiveness, like Daruk's protection. You could get forgiveness for messing up. You could spam an Urbosa's Fury. Those abilities aren't here. The abilities that you do have don't help you nearly as much in those situations. So at least I haven't found them to be as helpful in these situations yet. Maybe there is. You know what it is? You just build the damn monstrosity shooting lasers and you just go at him and let your mechanism just kill him.
I've seen
That's
people
probably the
build
best way to
like
do it.
bombers, like giant bombers that just destroy
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
encampments.
Yeah. So that's probably why they're so hard, because you're meant to build a monstrosity to take them on. And I'm
I
like,
don't know about
no,
that.
dude.
But...
I'm pulling out my sword with a Bokoblin arm on it, that plus 20, thank you. And I'm gonna go to town. Granted, it's only gonna last for 2 swings because Bokoblin arms break all the time, but
yeah.
whatever. But no, it's I just love the enemy variety. It makes, because combat really wasn't something that I viewed as a big plus in Breath of the Wild. It was just kind of like you do it because you need materials. In this game, I look forward to it. Every enemy encampment, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's just go. Like I want to take you all out, even though you're going to be back in like an hour because the Blood Moon's going to come back, and I'm going to. Did I take that camp out? I don't remember. We just had a Blood Moon. I don't know. Let's do it again. And there's so many different ways to do it. Like they made it so fun with like one I've been doing a lot lately is the Muddle Bud thing. Oh, that thing is so fun.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. Oh, there's 2, especially when you're in the underworld. Oh man, this encampment is like guys that one shot me every time. I'll just shoot a little Muddle Bud and you can fight each other. I'll just kill the last one left. Don't worry about it. It's the thought that went into this game, and the enemy variety and the combat variety that goes along with it. The fusing, there was complaints earlier from our 2 guests who left about the how much there is to go through when you're in the fuse menu and you have so much stuff. That's what forced me to discover that you could reorganize your menu and go to most used items. Once I figured that out, okay. Well, there's all my elementals. There's all, because those are my most used ones. I don't have to scroll through everything. But man, I mean, heck, even meat arrows have a purpose, guys. There's a purpose to meat arrows. They could serve a strategical purpose. This game.
Yeah, absolutely.
That being said, we got to end the podcast so I can get back to playing it, because now we've just been talking about it for a couple hours. Now I got to play. All right.
Me too. And I got a laundry list of stuff to do that I learned from you guys, like shield grinding on a rail. So
yeah,
see how that goes.
Thank good old Nintendo. I don't know if anyone really realized that you could do it on a single rail. We all knew, like in the trailer, there was the double rail. Right. People didn't realize you only need one. So it was a neat little thing they showed off. Or showed off and people didn't like. Because to be fair, they had Jose Otero playing it the whole time, and he's just sitting there proing it up. Like, dude, I'm like a master at this game.
Yeah.
Remember he came from the gamer crowd getting hired into Nintendo. So like he's just like, no, I've been proing this up probably this whole time I've been testing this game. Anyways, I gotta be honest. I only watched like 20 minutes of it, and I really just felt like he was showing off. He's just like, you didn't even think about this, did you? Look what I can do. I'm like,
yeah, he's like,
this is awesome. That's all I can say is this is awesome. Look at this. Look at, I wasn't even thinking. Anyways, Kit and Krista, what do you guys got going on, and where can people find you?
We are at Kit and Krista on pretty much every social channel you can imagine. Check us out on YouTube. We got a new podcast coming out tomorrow talking all about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/Kit and Krista.
There you guys go. You guys should absolutely go check them out. Be cool if they can get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That would be nice. That would be nice. Darren, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at RealDERN. Otherwise, you can find me on this podcast
every Wednesday, usually at 8 p.m. Central. Andres Restart. What do you got going on? Where can they find you? You're muted.
He is muted.
By the way.
I didn't realize that. I sneezed earlier and I was like, I should try not to make extra noise. I saw it coming this time. Anyways, yes, Andres Restart. You can check out my channel. I talk about Nintendo every day, news, theories, discussions, and now a whole bunch of Tears of the Kingdom tips videos. So check me out. And thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank everyone for tuning in. You can catch our podcast anywhere podcasts are heard. The audio version of our podcast always goes up a little bit later than our video version. If you ever want to catch our live show, it's usually every single Wednesday around 8 p.m. Central Time. Sometimes a little different if we got to move schedules around. But thank you guys for all of your support and for getting us through 21 episodes. Thank you to all of our guests, those that are gone. Make sure you guys go subscribe to them as well, Commonwealth Realm. and Monster Maze. We have everyone linked down in the description for you guys to go do that. And yeah, well, until next time, I got some Zelda to go play.